This is the Power Element Podcast, episode 52. All right, my name is Paul. I produce a podcast. I am a journeyman lineman by trade. Raul, your host, is a journeyman lineman as well. Currently serves as the Director of Operations T&D here at Sturgeon, Luxury, California. All right, another episode for you. Our in-guest studio today is Codey Gandy. Codey served in the Marine Corps from 2010 to 2015, Now works for Echelon Front as an instructor, and he leads the FTXs. I get to the show, but first let me highlight a few of our promotional partners. First up, Milwaukee Tool. Since the company began in 1924, Milwaukee Tool has led the industry in developing innovative solutions that deliver increased productivity and unmatched durability for professional construction users. Head on over to MilwaukeeTool.com or at Milwaukee Tool on Instagram for the latest and greatest. Got something special brewing up with Milwaukee Tool. Keep you guys posted. All right, here we go. Dragonwear. The fan favorite Dragonwear Pro Dry Tech shirts are arriving in 2 new colors, starting with high-vis yellow and long sleeve style, launching June 17th, and khaki in both long sleeve and with hood, launching shortly after in early July. Sign up for the Dragonwear newsletter on dragonwear.com and be the first to know when they drop. Thank you, Dragonwear. All right, new promotional partner, High Voltage Industry, the biggest brand on Instagram, showcasing all aspects of the high voltage industry. These guys have been working for nearly 10 years on showing the world what we do and how we put our lives on the line every day. Check out their Instagram page at highvoltage_industries, and they have some of the best merch in the game. Head on over to highvoltageindustries.com. Go ahead and use promo code POWERELEMENT to get 10% off your order. Once again, that's POWERELEMENT, one word, to get 10% off. All right, a few more promotional partners. Klein Tools, Working Athlete, Gel Co Eyewear. Use promo code POWERELEMENT to give yourself 15% off at checkout. Buckingham Manufacturing. All right, Daniel Sanchez, talented young man. Daniel provides us with all of our music. I'll put his info in the show notes. All right, last but not least, I want to thank the entire Sturgeon, Luxury, California workforce. Without you, this podcast would not be possible. All right, let's get to the show. The Power Element Podcast, episode 52. Codey Gandy. Enjoy the show. Say something?
What's happening?
What's going on, man?
Good evening.
Good to see you.
It's the night episode. What do we have? 52.
Yeah, I like it. Do you ever think we get to 52 episodes?
I knew we'd get there, but only because of your leadership. Because you've been holding it down, bro.
I've been trying, man. I know you've been MIA.
First one for the year for me.
Next man up. I know. When we're in June. Hey,
I can't believe it.
We're gonna end the year strong.
I gotta tell you though, man, you've been doing an excellent job, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate that, man.
Keep it going.
I'm gonna keep it going.
Keep it going. What you got? Got something for me? You look like you're holding up something there.
No, you're good. Happy Father's Day, man. How's your Father's Day been?
Oh, I told you when I walked in, man. Like, I'm just beat, just all day in the pool, enjoying some family time. You can't go wrong with you and the family hanging out and just relaxing.
Is that a tradition, or that's just it's just easy laid back?
No, it's just what we decided to do today, actually. As you know, we travel a lot. We try to get out and do crazy things with the kid, and we just wanted to hang out and enjoy each other's time today. What'd you do today? Anything?
Relaxed. I saw my dad yesterday, which was nice. Shout out my dad. Happy
How's
Father's
Pops
Day.
doing?
He's doing good. He's coming all the way from Texas. My mother-in-law. Stepmom's been having some health issues, so it's first time to see her in a little bit.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. So it was good. We had some good time, hung out, gave him some whiskey. That was nice. He's not a big whiskey guy, but that was nice.
What did you pick off the shelf? Because I know you are a whiskey connoisseur. I know this.
Yeah, but I let him in easy. Buffalo Trace. What do you think?
Buffalo Trace?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
nice.
that's nice.
That's a good startup.
Yeah, he liked it. I think he caught a little buzz, which is nice. So.
That's good.
It's good.
Man, well, episode 52, guys, welcome to the show. This is the Power Element Podcast. Like I said, an evening edition, so this is different for us.
I like it.
But, we're going to get started here. So I'm really, really just proud here today. I'm really excited about our next guest. We have a former Marine here, and looking forward to some good conversation. I mean, it is Father's Day, and I think, he is a dad as well, 4 kids, married. So I know his insight is going to be some good insight for us today. But he serves now as the director of training at Echelon Front, which I'm just super excited to have you be our keynote speaker as well, which is awesome. So looking forward to that. So please, everybody, let's welcome our next guest, Mr. Codey Gandy.
Awesome.
How you doing?
Chance. Good. Pleasure to be here. Thankful for the opportunity. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. So we always ask about the studio because Paul really puts it down. Is this studio better than Jocko's?
I've never stepped foot in Jocko's podcast, but I've heard the stories and I've seen the pictures. And I don't know.
And it's
I gotta say,
I don't know.
We got a picture of Jocko up there.
We got a picture.
I think that does make it better then.
No, so welcome to the show, man. How was the flight? Did you fly today?
Yeah, I left. I'm down in Phoenix, so it's like an hour flight.
Easy flight. Is it Southwest for you?
Yes, sir.
Southwest, easy. That's the corporate jet for us.
That's a good flight. Was that
Select.
A seating? Was that right? Or how do they seat you? Right?
Yeah,
That's
A
the worst.
group,
I like
B
Delta.
group.
I like you. I want to know where I'm at.
You don't like just Thunderdome on the plane? Just figure it out?
Thunderdome. Codey, are you a guy who stands when that ding goes off when you land? What's your seconds of count? Are you waiting?
I know the rules. I fly a lot. I was gone 230 days last year.
Shout out.
I'm on a lot of planes, so I know the game. If I'm 15 rows back, I'm not moving because courtesy is you let everybody go before you. But some people are crazy and animals and just they got to go. Which sometimes you're gonna miss your connection and stuff like that. But when it dings, I wait my turn.
See that? Raul, are you a waiter?
Yes. Well, Southwest is a little different. So I like to get there early. I walk on. And what's interesting about Southwest, even if are you business select, I'm sure, because you travel so much.
Yes, sir.
It's like you think you're going to be, maybe 15 or 10 on the plane, but there's probably 25, 30 people that are getting on before you. Yeah. So I like to be in the front, like first seat right in the front so I can get on, get off. I mean, I got this crazy thing with kind of feeling trapped in planes. I don't like the feeling. I'm not afraid of heights. I just don't like to feel like I can't get out.
You like the sardine can effect?
Yeah.
I get it.
I can't stand it. So, so I try to get there early, try to get my spot, and just hopefully I can get a good seat. But I usually do. I usually get on pretty on and off.
You heard it first. Travel tips from the Power Element Podcast. There we go. We got it all. Leadership.
I'm just trying to get used to this, man. I just haven't been here in a while. So, just trying to get used to it.
Get your sea legs back.
Exactly. So we'll get started. Like I said, looking forward to having you today on our show. I know you're going to bring a lot of good conversation. And I know, guys, if you're listening, get a notepad, right, Paul? I mean, there's going to be a ton of good nuggets to get from today. Yeah. I think it's one that we can all learn from. Like I said, I'm super excited about you being our keynote speaker tomorrow. So anyways, to get started, would you mind just telling our listeners about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, where do I start? So I'm originally from Sacramento up there, and there's 5 of us from Echelon Front from Sacramento, all unrelated. That's just the pool that we drink from. So originally from Sacramento, my dad, growing up, was a cop, so he's still a cop. Cop my whole life. I'm 32 years old, so that's all I've ever known. He's a cop in Stockton. Familiar with Stockton? Mm-hmm. So he's still doing that. My mom's real estate, so grew up in that environment. I have a younger sister who's 4 years younger than me. Not as close as kids, closer as we got older. But originally from that area, small rural town called Loomis. Northern California, you do have the mountains and stuff like that. So growing up as a kid, not a lot of complaints, middle class, growing up, and heavily involved in sports. I was the kid that would watch SportsCenter, the same episode 7 times in a row, to where in the morning I could tell you the stats about everything. That was me. Played baseball, football, wrestling, basketball, you name it. I love a sense of competition, so that was my whole life. In terms of, sports is part of growing up. The other side of school, was never a big fan of school. Hard time sitting in class and just didn't really understand at that time. I think as kids don't have perspective, right? That's what, when you're a parent, you get frustrated at the 6-year-old front knowing 6-year-old things, right? Perspective is a thing. And somebody that didn't have that, I was just frustrated at, what am I doing? Why am I doing these things? So I wasn't all bought into the school side. Was a half decent athlete, got away with a lot of things because of what I had, just from a gift perspective. I was really fast and didn't have to put a lot of effort in. And that got me, kind of where I am. And end of high school, I know I'm bypassing a bunch of stuff, but just in terms of, how we got here, and we can dive back into stuff. Mm-hmm. Sports came first, and then partying came second, and then school came third. And that was kind of my life until I was 18 years old. Wanted to play football. I never had a path to the military. I had a best friend that was going in the Marine Corps, and I remember him inviting me to come meet the recruiter, and I was like, no. I was like, that seems stupid. Like, why would you ever do that? Mm-hmm. What I wanted to be as a kid was a cop. I mean, I saw my dad in early 90s. I was born in 91. It was a lot cooler to be a cop back then than it is now. And I just remember the stories that he would tell, and he'd come coach my football practice in full gear and drop me off in the squad car, which I'm sure he probably wasn't supposed to do, but it was just cool. And people wanted to come to my house and hear the stories and all the parties we had as kids and family gatherings. Like, he would just tell these stories, and everybody was like, I want to hear what your dad has to say. And that's what I wanted to be. Now, as I got older, I turned 18, make 18-year-old decisions, and being a cop is on the back burner. I want to play in the NFL now, and I'm 165 pounds. I'm like, what could go wrong? So I go the JUCO route for football. I decide I want to walk on. I want to try to walk on at UNR up in Nevada. End up blowing out my knee before I even have the opportunity, and I think my life's over, right? Again, perspective. Like, my life, my dream, my passion, what I want to do, it's all gone. Mm-hmm. ACL, MCL, meniscus, the whole thing, and I'm just in this dark place with nowhere to go. Can't be a cop now, can't play college football. Like, I don't know what to do. And you call it whatever you want, but I had some very influential people in my life. I had a family member in the military, had that buddy that was in the Marine Corps. And I remember when this happened, these guys were calling back to me to see how I was doing. And what was unique is these guys were deployed, or they were coming back from deployment, weren't talking about what they were going through, just a general interest in who I am and what I was dealing with, this sense of caring, which man to man is not typically there in a lot of relationships. And them showing this interest in me and seeing how I was doing, it opened up the path on what I wanted to do. To see who they were, another 18-year-old dealing with the deployment to Afghanistan, and what I'm dealing with, like, the problems, there's no comparing. Yeah. And I know it's in nobody's best interest to compare problems, but hearing what people were dealing with, it really put into perspective what I was dealing with. Because I would argue a lot of the problems that I face as an individual, they're not really a problem, they're inconveniences. And so understanding that and seeing what they were doing and who they were and how in high regard they were, that's what I wanted to do. And I was so ready, and I just came off the operating table like a month later, and I was like, I want to go in the Marine Corps. The recruiter's like, no, like, you're on crutches. Like, the wound is still fresh. Like,
get out of here.
I don't care. Yeah. And so he gave me a timetable, like 6 months, and I left like a couple months later to the Marine Corps. I wanted to serve. I wanted to be in the infantry. I wanted to go overseas. I wanted to kill bad guys. I wanted to help my friends. I wanted to potentially save a mom and dad from receiving that knock on the door. Like, that's what I wanted to do, just from indirect influence from two people that were doing it. And so that's how I ended up in the Marine Corps. And, it was the best, just 6 years of my life, almost 6 years. Learned a lot of lessons from failure, from successes, and from other people. And then from that, after I got out, I ended up joining Echelon Front, which we teach leadership. I work with a bunch of Navy SEALs and Marines. There's 12 of us with military backgrounds. And now I get to go around the world and teach leadership to whoever you can think of, because leadership is not a military thing. It's for everybody.
Yeah, it's not just mindset. Yeah.
So I know it's a very Cliff Notes version of who I am and how we are here, but that's about it.
No, that's good, man. I mean, you went through a whole bunch of stuff there. You talked a little bit about perspective, and you talked a little bit about your dad and your relationship with your folks. You have a sister, you said?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
How's your relationship? How was your relationship with her?
Growing up, she was the younger sister, and when I was a senior in high school, she was in 8th grade, so that was the disconnect there. Mm-hmm. And so I was just always gone, always in sports. My sister had some troubling time in high school, but I was already gone, and so that bond wasn't there. Mm-hmm. I always wanted a brother. I had a bunch of friends that had brothers, younger, little, whatever, and I had a sister, and no fault to her own, like, that's what happened, but we weren't close just due to what we were going through in life. And then when I went into the Marine Corps, and you have all these friends in the Marine Corps, and just when I left in the military, all my friends back home, it just disappeared. Like, mm-hmm. Here I am, I'm in Virginia, all my friends are in Sacramento, like, they're not going to reach out. They're dealing with their own stuff. And so I didn't have people to reach back to. And that's when I started to cultivate a very strong relationship with my family, my sister specifically. She was going through a lot of stuff at, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. And here I was in the military gone, trying to go through my own stuff. And my parents were going through a lot. They ended up getting divorced. And so I was this outlet that she could talk to and listen to, and just bounce ideas off of. And then once I got out of the military, we've been a lot closer since. She just had her first son, who just turned one a couple months ago, and so dealing with being a mom now, and I got 4 kids under the age of 6. It's been really cool to see where we are now, considering where we're at in the past, and so it's a huge blessing to me to have a sister like that I can relate to and talk through things with.
Yeah, that's something for me too. When I look back, having my brothers was critical for us. Like, we had friends, but we had brothers. We were more close, right? Like, we were a year apart. I have a brother now that's he's a lot younger than me. He came later, but my cousin, we were all family, and I got a great perspective on how important family is. Like, big time. Like, we were always together, had each other's backs. You could talk to each other when there's things that were going good or maybe not so good, right? And the reason why I bring up your family is because, like, I really appreciate. You're a good dude, man. Like, when I listen to your podcast, and guys, there's a ton of podcasts of Codey out there. His whole story, he goes into depth on all this stuff too. But, like, at the end of the day, like, the way you can apply the leadership principles to which we're going to get into, obviously, right? We're going to have a lot of conversation in regards to what you do now at Echelon Front, what you're going to do for us tomorrow. But the way you can apply it personally on the personal side that's, even though we have good relationships with our families now, that's the hard thing to do. You would think it'd be easy, but it's hard, right? And I think even for me, applying some of those leadership principles sometimes at work is sometimes easier at work, but I really try to apply it on the personal side too. And I think it being Father's Day and kind of, what this show is about culture. I would love to hear a little bit about, like, your relationship with your mom and dad. It sounded like you guys were tight. Obviously, your sister. I think you probably, in sports, you probably had some good mentors and coaches, I would imagine. By the way, Codey's sitting here. He's a specimen of a human being. If you guys don't want to see him on YouTube, obviously, he's really healthy. We'll get into all his workouts too. But obviously, you think there's a lot to play in your role with your relationship with your family and how you're applying your leadership practices now and who you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think now that I'm a father, and I'm sure we'll talk about my kids. I got 4 of them. I have a 6, a 5, a 4, and a 2-year-old. And I think when you become a parent, you reflect on your raising, and part of being a kid is, like, you don't really know what you're going through, even when you're going through it. And then hindsight, right? And then now that I'm a dad, I look back, I'm like, oh, well, that's what my parents were trying to do. These connections come later in life, but as a kid, my parents, not to say my parents were my best friends, but it was a very safe environment to ask questions, gain guidance, stuff like that, with no real ramifications on, like, hey, I just don't know. I'm 18 years old. I don't know what to do. It wasn't, figure it out. It was like, hey, here's some steps, but you still need to make this decision on your own. And so, yeah, we were extremely tight. My father, coming from law enforcement and still law enforcement, very strict, very disciplined individual, very non-emotional and stoic. I watched my dad go through a lot. His partner was killed when I was in high school, got hit by a drunk driver while he was doing something at night, putting up cones on the side due to a car crash, and got hit by a drunk driver and died. I remember watching my dad go through that. And
was it much emotion?
There wasn't much emotion, but I think for me, like, looking back again, maybe I saw what I wanted to see, right? I had my dad on this pedestal of he can handle anything, he's Superman, which a lot of kids think their parents are superheroes. And maybe my dad was upset, but I didn't see it. And so part of watching my dad go through, my family going through, like, that's what I thought I should be. And I'll say now I'm a very reserved person. I hate to say that I don't cry. I haven't cried since I was 12 years old, and I've gone through a lot of things in life, but that's what I thought I should be like. Because as a kid, when your parents do the right thing, it's influence. That's what parenting is. That's what leadership is. You're trying to influence your kids while competing against other influence. That's what makes it so hard. And so that's who I wanted to be. And so seeing my dad, he never cries. He's very strong. And then I have my mom on the opposite side, who is very emotional. So I have these two extremes. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. And so I selfishly was like, I'm going to emulate my dad. And so very reserved. I won't say I was disciplined, but I understood the benefit of discipline, specifically in the sports world, on what it can bring for you. brings you a lot of freedom. You wake up early, you get a lot of stuff done. You eat clean, you can become healthier. You go weight train, you're going to become stronger. And so I saw the benefit real early on this concept of, discipline equals freedom as we teach at Echelon Front. But we're very tight. The sports in our lives as kids, it was a priority, which is crazy considering what my parents were going through. My dad would often work nights and he'd come home and he'd have 2 hours. He's like, cool, what do you want to go do? Hit baseballs for 2 hours. I'm like, you going to sleep? He's like, no, I'm fine. And so to see the effort that he put in and the time that he prioritized, I think a lot of time as parents, it's easy to make the excuse, I don't have enough time. I just got off the plane. I was gone for a week. I just want to come home and sleep. Like, no, like now is the time to capitalize with my kids. I was gone.
Yeah.
And so seeing my parents specifically, full days, both of them, and then showing up no matter what. Like my parents never missed anything, a practice, a game, regardless of what was going on or what the context was. Like they made an emphasis to be there for me, which was huge because when they can be there in those little things like sports in the grand scheme of life, it's nothing. I knew when I did get into things that they were going to be there for me as well, regardless of what it was. When I would get in trouble or when I, almost got arrested for drinking in high school, like there was a thought in my head, like, should I go to my parents? And the answer was absolutely yes. Like, am I going to be in trouble? 100%. But they're going to be there for me because they've been there for me in everything that I've done in my life.
Yeah.
And so that was a really good example. And I think examples are hard as kids. And, part of parenting is kids have to figure stuff out for themselves. But at the end of the day, you still have to support your kid in everything that they do. And so a lot of lessons that I learned in, who I am as a father today, considering it's Father's Day, it's direct correlation of how my parents raised me and my sister. And that's nice because now I have a framework to work off of. And now I'm surrounded by a bunch of dudes with a bunch of kids and we teach leadership. It's a cool environment for me to pull from because now I have a blueprint. And sure, is it still hard having a blueprint? Yes, but I don't have to guess. Sometimes I have to guess, but majority of the time I know where I'm supposed to go or what I'm supposed to say with my kids. And so it does become a lot easier because to your point, the principles that we teach, leadership, and we say leadership is influence, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would argue it's easier at work because you go home and the relationship's just tighter and me and my wife knows what button to push and when to say it and how to say it. And my kids, oftentimes I think they do stuff on purpose. It's just harder and you have a stronger emotional connection. Therefore, these principles are harder. Decentralized command, which is empower others. It's hard to empower my 6-year-old because he's 6 and I know better. I'm 32. I'm the expert. Like it's just hard to let go. And we teach detachment, which is not let your emotions dictate what you do. That's so hard. It's
so hard.
My kids who selfishly, they look a lot more like me than my wife. My wife hates it, but they're little carbon copies and we see them in ourselves. And so when they make a mistake, we're like, why are you doing, like, you should know better, but they don't. And so all the stuff that we teach with human interaction, I would agree with you. It's 100% harder at home due to the relationship that you have. Thus it makes it 10x harder than it is in the workplace.
Yes, man. You the way, Paul, I don't know if you noticed, but man, the way you can go back and just like your self-reflection is pretty impressive, and I guess when I listen to your podcast, other podcasts, I noticed that and how you can apply it like to now to better yourself is truly amazing. I mean, I grew up in kind of a similar household too. My dad was very hard man. My mom, opposite of that, very sweet lady, very humble, but she taught me a lot of different things than my dad did. But I have one daughter. She's 14, going on 18. Seems like, but I try to, you're right. Like the more time I spent on her, I can always see my dad or my mom spending time with me, right? And that's where I get it from. I mean, what do you think, Paul? I mean, that's something that even you grew up, kind of the same for you, right? Get you in this mix over there. You look a little lonely, buddy.
No, we're doing good, man. I just saw, you can see Codey flip the switch and he hit his stride. It was cool. So we got to capitalize on it. But no, absolutely. I just want to ask you real quick. Do you feel like your dad, having that law enforcement background, it sounded like he was able to detach from work, but was he teaching anything about the disciplines, that structure, maybe from a law enforcement background to you?
I think very indirectly. So I think everything in life, whether I'm with a coworker or just kids, the goal is to be indirect. The goal is for that other person to figure this out for themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I learned. My dad didn't dictate a lot of things to me. It was like, here's your options. Like, you can choose what you want to do. There was a right one, and he may ask me some questions to get there, but he wanted me to make that choice. Because I know my kid's 6, so this might not relate, but say when my kid's 10 and I force my kid to wake up early in the morning to go do A, B, and C, like that's still me forcing it to do something. But when I give him a choice, like, hey, if you want to get up early, like these are the things that you can do, and he makes that choice, like the habit starts to get created. It doesn't take his dad to remind him, etc. the habit, which leads to our tendencies down the road. Like, it's his decision. And I think everything in life that I want to do, I want my kids to be able to make decisions. Because when I look at leadership in itself, from a parent perspective, like, my goal in everything that I do is that when all my kids turn 18 and they leave the house, is for them to be able to handle anything thrown their way. Not to say when they struggle, they're in a bind, they're in a pickle, they're going to call back and I'm going to help them. I will always be there. Parent is, it's a lifelong journey to help somebody, right? Support them. But there will be a time, there will be a place where they have to make a decision. And the worst thing that I can do as a dad is not set my kids up to make those decisions, to where they freeze or they're influenced by somebody else or they don't know what to do and they let bad things happen or they make a bad choice, all because I didn't show them or teach them or let them make choices to see how that plays out. And at 18, that's a perfect scenario. But I mean, my kids right now are making decisions. They go to school, they go to church, they do all these things. They're going to be in environments where they have to make a choice. That's what life's about, is making choices, good or bad. Like, that's the two areas that they're trying to achieve. And so for me, I want them to handle anything thrown their way. And I'll be there when I can, but sometimes I won't. And so, yeah, my dad did a lot of indirect. My parents did a lot of indirect. Sometimes, is there a time and place to be direct? Absolutely. But I would say probably 5% of the time that is the case. Majority of the time, let the team, let the people figure it out. So they're like, oh, I made this choice and this is what came of it. Oh, it actually worked out. And now they have another tool in their tool belt to make a decision down the road.
So good. You get all that?
Man, I'm taking my page one's already filled, man.
No, it's just, it's so true because, a little kind of story. So my daughter, she just got accepted into the varsity golf team.
Oh, that's
as
awesome.
A freshman.
That's a freshman.
Dang. And I'm so proud of her, right? It's just a little proud moment, proud papa over here, I guess. And one of the things during this whole process for her, just in golf, is, to your point, like, at some point I was pushing her a little too hard. Like, and she's been playing since she's, 7, 8 years old, right? So she's been out there, she's been playing. But then as she gets older, like, her interests changed, right? She wants to do stuff more with mom and she wants to do other things. And I'm like, hey, let's go hit some balls. Let's go do this. I don't really want to, I could see the shift. And then when I just indirectly start, taking her with me on trips or whatever. Hey, you want to go golf with me? Let's go golf. Let's go hit some balls, and just kind of indirectly bring it up. She got more interest in it. It's almost like you push too hard and it's like, oh, I want to make my own decisions now, Teenager, like I said. Good, it's coming.
Oh, I know.
It's going to be fast for you,
I've been told.
We'll talk a little bit more about your kids because I know you're very passionate about your family. But back to my point, like, I'm finding the ways to not be strategic with her, because that's not it. It's I want her to learn on her own. And my wife Tish does it really well. She asks her open-ended questions, and she's got it down as a woman, right? Like, for me, I just want to be like my dad was and be like, no, this is what we're gonna do. It's really simple. Yeah. But with girls, it's gonna be a little bit different. So you got 4 kids. You're one away from a basketball team, so you guys got one more coming, so you can start the team. Or what?
I think, ironically, when me and my wife started dating, we both said that we both wanted 4. Okay. That was just a common thing that we had. Mm-hmm. And then also, I won't speak for my wife, but the pregnancies were relatively easy, of course, for me. But for her, didn't have the morning sickness or anything like that. The deliveries, nothing catastrophic. Yeah. And then the sleep cycles wasn't that big of a deal. Obviously, there's a learning curve and it can be challenging. Mm-hmm. But because of that, we're like, oh, cool, let's just, like, while we're here, we were both, 26 when we had our first one. We had another one. My oldest, his name's Bear, and Jet was born, a year later in a week.
It's a cool name, Bear, Jet.
Yeah, so all my kids, see some of my tattoos, they're all animals. So each of my kids have a animal middle name. So my nickname as a kid was Bear, and so that's where this started. So my first son is Hudson Bear. He doesn't know his name's Hudson. Like, if you call him that, he's like, he has no idea. So he's Bear. And then my youngest son, his middle name is Wolf. So that's the Wolf. My oldest daughter, her middle name is Fox. And then we're having my wife wanted to go away with it because she's like, I don't know another girl one, because we knew we were having a girl. Yeah. And then we decided on Ray, like a stingray. So my youngest daughter, her middle name's Ray.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's where we went with that. So yeah, 2 older boys, 2 younger girls. I think if we were a little more spread out, we might have had one more. Yeah. But right now, it's just a lot.
4 kids, man. That's just. I would have loved to have another one, obviously. And it's something that I look back on. We have just the one. So we're constantly getting our family involved with her, or close friends. I should say probably better. She's got a lot of good friends. Mm-hmm. But you're right, when it comes to those kids growing up, man, it's that power of influence. And that's all leadership is. And I love that point, because that's what we always strive in it with our crews is you just got to influence. That's what safety is. You got to be able to influence those right decisions and those choices. And I don't know where I'm going with that, but I appreciate that outlook and that reflection on that about with the kids. So do you take them traveling with you? What do you guys do? What do you guys do for fun?
We do everything. We have the glutton for punishment, to where we don't sit at home. And actually, we found when we stay at home, there's like more chaos, because the kids just want to do stuff. And mm-hmm. I do live in Arizona, so it is a little hot, but we do stuff all the time. I just took my boys 2 weekends ago. I've decided every year that they graduate a grade, I'm going to take them to a baseball stadium across the U.S. So this was our first year. We went to Seattle.
Oh, nice.
So I took my 2 sons, went up there, just did boy stuff. Went to the zoo, went fishing, went to the Space Needle, went to the ball game, and just hung out for 3 days. So that's my goal with my sons. I have to figure out something with my daughters, but we travel, we do stuff all the time. Last year, we went to Yellowstone, did like a 16-hour drive, and that was the drive wasn't that fun, but getting there and having a cabin in the woods with a hot tub, we just love to get out and we don't like to let our situation, I say situation lightly, but our mm-hmm. environment dictate what we do. Is it challenging to drive with kids? Yes, but that's not going to deter me from giving them the best life I can possibly can. So we travel. I travel a bunch. So I have a lot of Marriott points, so we go stay in hotels. Cool. Do stuff like that. So we're out of the house all the time.
My daughter loves hotels, bro. Like, that's her thing. And we used to camp a lot, right? And I loved camping with her. I mean, that was our thing. Like, when I look back at memories and things I can remember with her, was us driving around a golf cart with the dog or something. Something simple. Going to maybe Dumont or doing some of that stuff, right? Some of that riding, and we used to have a lot of fun. It's one of those things, like when you look at like memories, taking your kids and spending time with them. Like, I remember traveling with my parents. Like, that was stuff that I remember, so hopefully Maddie will remember that when she gets older. Cause I think that's the most important thing for us right now is the influence, and make sure she's around things to make good choices, 100%. Especially this age. I wish she was having the choice of eating peanut butter and jelly and a crayon. But those times are gone now.
Hey, don't say crayons too loud around Codey.
Is that an indirect joke?
The red crayons, Marine. He's getting all.
Why is there a
Marines like crayons, bro?
You don't know the crayons?
No. What's the joke about the crayon? I'm lost.
Marines are crayon eaters, or so they say. And so it is always a jab from other people or branches about Marines and crayons. And what's your favorite color? What's the best flavor? It's red, by the way, if you want to know. So.
That's awesome.
I love it. You were talking about taking your boys to the baseball stadiums there.
Yes, sir.
Which is awesome. That's a great goal. I mean, I'm trying to pick off some as I go through the different states. Obviously you played baseball. Is that your passionate sport that you played?
No.
That you really enjoyed?
I was better at baseball, but for some reason I decided so I could play baseball or football in college. I decided to play football. Mm-hmm. I've always loved baseball. I know it's a slow game and some people just aren't into it. Me and my wife, when we were dating, baseball was just a thing. Her family's big into baseball. Okay, they're A's fans. Mm-hmm. And so that was something we bonded over. We went to a lot of Diamondbacks games back in the day. My oldest son loves baseball. Like, we go to Diamondbacks games all the time where they have the dome and they have the pool inside. Like, it's amazing.
It's an awesome stadium.
And my oldest son will just sit through the whole game, like, just frozen. Like, he just loves it. Awesome. My other kids are just like...
And the game is so much better now. It's quicker. Don't get me wrong. I used to watch baseball all the time, dude. Like, my family I watch every game, every series. Not the World Series. You name it. It's on all 4 games all night long. I love baseball. I'm passionate about it. I played, too. I played up to 10th grade. I wasn't very good, though.
But baseball's fun. It's a different beast. The coordination and the skill set required, and so it was just always a passion for us. And so, my younger son doesn't like it as much, but he likes the game environment, like what you get while you're at the game. So he likes it. And so the Mariner Stadium was really nice. And
what's your favorite so far?
That was the first one that we've gone to on this trip. So my oldest just graduated from kindergarten. Mm-hmm. My youngest graduated from preschool. So this was the first introduction. Into
you guys been to San Diego?
I've been to the Padres.
That's phenomenal.
It's a really nice. I was surprised. I went there.
Yeah. Surprised? What do you want surprised?
Just the stadiums, you just never know.
It's what's around the stadium that gets rough, bro, down there. That's pretty rough.
It's
down
a nice
there.
park, though.
Yeah.
So
it's
I've been
pretty
to
awesome.
a handful over the years, but I wanted to do this with my kids, so I stopped going by myself or with my wife, and so now that's something I look forward to. But to your point, I think the memory thing.
Yeah.
Like if you look back as a kid, like you don't remember the toys and the stuff like that, but it's so hard because I give my kids like Legos and dinosaurs and all kinds of crazy stuff. They get that immediate gratification, but they're not going to remember those things. They're going to remember, the trips and stuff like that. So the memories that you create that's the goal in hand.
The memories I can remember when I was a kid is working with my dad. I mentioned it before on this podcast. Like we spent a lot of time working together, whether it's at the house or on a job site doing something. Like he taught me the value of hard work.
100%. Yeah. My dad's the handyman, and anytime there's a problem, like, I'm not calling anybody else, I'm going to do it. And watching my dad just like, how do you know this stuff? He's like, I don't know. Just figure it out.
I was just at home fixing the sprinklers, and my kid comes by me and she's looking at me and she's like, it's Father's Day. Like, it's Father's Day weekend. What are you doing? I'm out there tinkering with the sprinklers. Like, I can fix this myself. I don't need to call nobody out. 100%. What are some of the jobs you had after high school? And I mean, you went to college, but is there any jobs you want to talk about?
So the deal that my parents made with me is if I was, sports heavy and I maintain a relative clean grade sheet, that I wasn't, I say forced slightly, to go do a job or anything like that. I had mixed jobs doing concrete. My dad did a lot of construction on the side when he wasn't doing overtime and stuff like that. So just a lot of labor stuff. Which again, the hard work thing was something that I learned real young. But the deal was if I stayed, competitive at sports and I went all in and my grades were good, that I didn't have to get a job, but I still found myself doing them. My dad did a lot of odd stuff where I'd go follow him around and figure out what to do. And
that's cool.
Or he'd be like, hey, you're the bucket guy and go do the buckets. I'm like, why can't I do the fun stuff over there? And so even when I got out of high school, college football didn't really allow me. Sure, I could have done something. I know a lot of people do, but it wasn't in the cards. And then I joined the Marine Corps, and then that was my full-time job.
That was it. Yeah. That was it, man. Yeah. Well, let's stay right there for a little bit, Paul. If you want, let's talk a little bit about your career as a Marine. You were there 5 years?
Yep, just over 5.
Can you talk through some of those positions there?
Yeah. So I enlisted in October 2010. So basically, you get split up. You either go East Coast to Parris Island, or you go West Coast to MCRD. So I went to MCRD.
What's a better Marine?
It's a rhetorical question.
You trying to set him up or what?
Oh, there's certain things you always have to ask a Marine. When he opened the door, he stated the East-West Coast. I understand it, so you got to put him on the spot.
I think us Hollywood Marines, or so they're called, have a biased opinion. I mean, at the end of the day, either side, they both make Marines. So just wherever you come from, you have that perspective.
Nice.
But so went West Coast, and then I won't say it was eye-opening for me when I joined the Marine Corps, being in sports and with how I was raised, the discipline and stuff like that. I knew that was coming, and I had a buddy that was, in the Marine Corps, and so he kind of tipped me off on what to expect. I was a relatively quiet person. The stoicism my dad gave off, that was me. I was very reserved, wasn't very vocal, and for whatever reason, when I joined the military and I found myself in this platoon of 100 guys, that's where you start, something in me just wanted to do more. In sports, I was always elevated just due to my talents. I didn't have to say anything. I could just do things, and people were like, well, let's listen to him. Well, in the Marine Corps, you all start off on the same, and we all look the same, and et cetera. You come from different backgrounds. And so for whatever it was, I just decided, like, I want to try something different. And so I became a little more vocal. There was a day, probably like 10 days in, where the number one guy they call a guide, he was at a dental appointment. They're like, hey, somebody needs to step up and do it. And I was like, and everyone's looking around. There's like 99 of us, and everyone's like, hell no. I was like, why not? Like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, I already get yelled at. I already get beat down all the time. Like, they can't do it anymore. And so I rogered up for that position, and I held this billet, the number one guy in the platoon for the whole thing, graduated second out of, I think, 800 Marines for the boot camp itself. And boot camp was really cool for me. I learned real quick, not that I didn't learn teamwork from sports, but how important taking care of each other were from a military perspective. Because anytime anybody messed up in my initial platoon, like, I was still held responsible. So even though that your bed's not made, I didn't make it, that's still my fault, my responsibility. So anytime anybody, all 100 of us, got in trouble, I would get in trouble as well. The initial thought was like, this is BS, like, that's your fault, not mine. So this concept of ownership really kicked in on, hey, you know what, if I'm allegedly in charge as a student here, like, it's my responsibility to fix that. And so I started off in an elevated position, graduated number one in my class, got promoted because of that, and that started off the trickle effect on, I can do this. I wasn't sure what to get into the Marine Corps, but I knew I wanted to potentially lead people, this leadership concept, and from there it just kind of took off. I started off on the East Coast in Virginia, in Norfolk out there.
Shout out Norfolk.
Yeah, was not a fan of that place.
Yeah, that's cool.
But got thrust into a lot of leadership positions. And what's ironic for me teaching leadership now is in the Marine Corps specifically, when you're young, you don't get a lot of formal leadership training. It's, hey, Codey, you're now in charge of 4 guys, and they're all your friends. But now you're in charge of them. You have to make them do stuff. Like, good luck. And here I am like, hey, man, I know we're just being jackasses over there, but now I have to tell you what to do. It was hard to balance that, but I learned real quick what worked and didn't work. Being direct didn't work. Being indirect worked. Finding the balance of peer and now friend and boss, like there's lines you can't cross and can't mesh. When friends take advantage of your position, like that's a line you can't let them cross. And so I learned real quick just from doing, but I also learned, and what I think a lot of military do is you learn by others. And so I would watch other Marines, how they treat people, and like, ooh, like what he did, like I don't want to do that, but what he's doing, I'm going to do that. And so over the years, you just gain a lot of experience from other people, because in the military, it's a lot of mentor-mentee. There is no formal leadership training until you get to specific ranks and billets, and then you get taught that. But besides that, you really have to figure it out. And it wasn't frustrating at the time, but I look back and I think it's frustrating to where you're setting people up for failure almost, to where hey, you're going to be in charge of 4 guys and then in charge of 12 guys. You have to tell them what to do. And you might have to tell them what to do in a life-saving environment, but you're going to have no formal leadership training. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah,
like, that's
tough.
Crazy to think. But I started to uncover my journey in life from the Marine Corps, now at Echelon Front. That's what a lot of people, organizations, regardless of what they do, military, first responders, gas, electric, white collar, blue collar, that's what a lot of people do. It's where they just expect people to lead. Like, you're now the boss. You're now the foreman.
That's in a lot of organizations.
A lot of organizations.
Bro. Like, that's like you were going right through some of the challenges that I saw coming up through the trade, and things that we want to shift the culture in. You're going to have some training. It's no longer here's the keys to the foreman truck. You're now the foreman today. Whoa, what? Because you're not even because you're the senior guy, because you're the we like you. We want you to do it. No, it's a good point, man. That's such awesome.
He puts that emphasis on until you get to that position, then they make the investment on you. And I seen that now. I'm able to reflect Codey too back in my military experiences. You're right. You get put in a position where because you were good at something, and now the expectation is for you to lead your peers, your colleagues to do this, to have success and execute and be successful. That's a whole nother ballgame. Do you have those skills, especially and when you're in the when you start out in the military? Typically, you're young. You're just kind of getting through.
But it's pretty strategic, that route, though, if you think about it. Because everybody knows that's the game. And obviously, I didn't spend any time in the military, but it's like everybody knows this is how it is. Like you said, you have to learn by watching others, which means if I'm the other, then maybe I need to step my game, because this is pretty much the training you're going to get before you take those roles. I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was fascinating for me, because I would see myself or people get put in these positions, and then the leadership would be frustrated they're not doing the right thing, and I'm like, well, of course, like they're not doing the right thing because they have no idea what to do, and they don't have that perspective. And I think I love talking about perspective, because I don't think anybody has enough of it. Because if I'm selfish and I listen to my own perspective, I miss out on a lot of different stuff. For example, there's 3 of us in this room, and there's a task we have to go do. I have a choice. I can listen to myself. I can say, screw you guys. You have no idea what to do, and I can solve that problem. Or I open the door. I listen to your experience, your lessons learned, your failures, your successes, your insight, all that stuff. It's just on the table waiting to be accessed, but oftentimes we just close that book like, you know what, it's okay. And the ego in me tells me, like, if I ask you guys for help or your opinions, that's weak. And those subordinates are going to think that I'm lesser of a leader because I asked them for help, which is crazy, because it's actually the opposite. Because that I don't know what I'm doing. So I can pretend that I know. In reality, I lose a lot of trust and confidence in you guys. But I just think it's crazy in the world that we live in now, even now that at Echelon Front, that leadership, the C-suite, they get frustrated at these leaders, but they haven't set them up for success.
Yeah.
And then they have to coach them, teach them, hold them accountable. Like, you have to figure this out. And then they're just scrambling. And thus now we have a framework. And that's why really Echelon Front does so well now, is a lot of people just need a framework to follow. And once you have a framework, I mean, the stuff we teach is not rocket science. It's all stuff that was way before Jocko. Jocko just tidied it up, created a list, and has a different perspective, and it's our relationships,
so relatable to
communication.
everything too. It's so
100%.
relatable to everything. I want to go back to your point. So, like, the right move, or we'll just quote Jocko, the black belt move, if you will, is to go to that same group that you just mentioned and say, you know what, I don't really know the best way to do this. And then right then everybody's ego's checked because the leader's stepping up saying, you know, I don't really know how to do this. Why don't we come up with a solution together? And that way it's our collaborative plan, if you will, to get something done. I have ownership in my piece. Paul have ownership in his piece. You have ownership in your piece, and it's probably going to be pretty successful. I found here recently, I taken on some additional responsibilities, and I did the same thing. It was out of my element. I wasn't really familiar with it. I got my group of team, and I said, we're going to do this together, because at the end of the day, I've been down this road before, and I've gone the wrong way. This is probably going to help me if I just check my ego a little bit, humble myself, and just say as a leader. And that's the hardest thing to do too. And like I say like it's easy, but it's hard. But when I did that, I noticed my entire team shifted, and they all had to buy in. So personal experience there that I thought related exactly to what you're saying. You know, that sometimes we got to take those lessons learned and just throw them on the table, and let's pick one that's going to be the best one, right? Oh man. So you said you keep going on in your military career, if you don't mind. So you ended up being a sergeant?
Yeah,
at
eventually.
some point?
So after my first two schools, I started to become the school guy. So two things that I'll say halfway decent at. I was really good at PT, physical training, just the sports background. Nothing really anybody could throw it to me to where I was like, I can't do that. Or I'm just going to figure it out. Whether that was swimming, whether that was hiking, whether it was shooting, all the skills from a physical standpoint, like I could learn to master those. So that set me up to where if we're going to promote somebody or put somebody in a leadership position, like, well, if it's not the testing guy, it's going to be the guy the physical stud. So that helped me out. The other side was the schools. A lot of schools like guys didn't want to go to. So we have a school in the Marine Corps called McQuiss, which is Marine Corps Instructor of Water Survival. You just learn how to drown. And they sent me to that school because I never failed anything. And so if we're going to send one guy and our platoon only gets one person, like we want to make sure our guy passes. I got sent to a lot of schools, giving me a lot of perspective and a lot of insight. And so those two things set me up for success. So I found myself at 19, at 20 in charge of people because of, how I could perform or what I could do. When I was in Virginia, we went to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, which was very interesting. I know I think the Army's still there controlling that, but nobody's on the fence line anymore. So we were on the fence line, which you're doing the 12, 15 hours of just staring into the abyss. We had a couple asylum seekers from Cuba that would hop over. So that was my first deployment. Not what I really wanted to do. It's not what I signed up for. Hearing guys in Iraq and Afghanistan, that's where I wanted to go.
Gitmo.
Yeah. From there, came back and then training again. And then we forward deployed to Rota, Spain. And so we're in Rota, Spain, and that was a really cool experience. Got to train with a lot of foreign allies. So we're training with the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, which was really cool because everybody in the country serves for 2 years. I was a designated marksman, so like a lower standard of a sniper. Got to train with Israeli snipers who were all women, which was different.
That is different.
That was a cool experience. We got to just train with a lot of foreign forces. And then September 11th, 2012, there's a bunch of embassies attacked around the world. Ambassador Stevens was killed, if you guys remember that, down in Benghazi. About 4-6 hours after he was killed, my platoon was on a plane and we flew down to Benghazi. So we were the first U.S. troops to help re-secure that area because the embassy was gone, Ambassador Stevens was killed, and we were sent there to reestablish a new embassy to where everybody could come relocate, and basically they built a new embassy where we stood. What was unique about that is I turned 21 12 days prior, and there I am now in charge of 12 guys just trying to figure out with no real standard or formal training, which isn't unique for military. It's just there's a lot of people, and I get the bandwidth of the military and training, and everything's about training, but that was my first real exposure on trying to lead guys in that environment. That was an awesome experience. Learned a lot. We're there for about 4 months. From there, I got my new orders. I know we talked about orders earlier. All the guys that got promoted, so I got promoted to corporal while I was in Benghazi. I think there's about 6 of us. All the NCOs got sent to Hawaii. Everybody else got split up between North Carolina and California, or 29 Palms. So I got sent to Hawaii and finished up.
It's tough.
Hawaii's tough, by the way. So we're out on Oahu. All the branches got a spot out there. Kaneohe Bay on the north east side is where I was. I was with 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines Infantry Unit up there. Got sent there as a corporal, so an E4. Got promoted to E5, which is a sergeant. Went through the ringer of a squad leader in charge of 12 and finished up as a platoon sergeant, filling in on that billet because there was no one else to do it. Went to Japan, went to Okinawa, got to train with, the Republic of Korea Marines, which was really cool. A lot of foreign allied deployments that we got to work with. And then after we got back, they were going back to Okinawa, and that's when I had to make the decision. I extended to help my guys train because I wanted to set them up for success, so I stayed back. And then that was that pivotal point on, do you want to do another 4 years? And the writing on the wall for that unit itself was, you're going back to Japan. And not what I wanted to do. And so that's when I hung it up and got out and went back to school, and cards got laid in front of me on what to do next.
That's awesome, man. I want to peel back that young leader you said. It kind of jumped over it a little bit there. You were 21, you said, and now in charge of 12 guys. Let's peel that back a little bit. So you didn't have no formal training.
When I say formal training, I mean you go to a school, you sit down like, hey, here's your sergeant course or corporal course. I didn't get to any of those. I was still an E3. I was still 20 years old. I was a year and a half into the Marine Corps. So yeah, a lot of informal training, but no formal training, to your point.
And for us, that's kind of for young guys. For us, that's the age group right now that's out there running our crews and the next leaders. There's some older guys in there, but that's kind of the group, that's coming up. And even as not let's say a foreman, like they're still a big key part of that crew, right? They got their hands on the work. Like there's a certain amount of responsibility. What were some of the things that you thought that helped you through that challenge of just being a young guy? I mean, leading 12 guys. What was some of the things that you defaulted to just within yourself that you think that made you successful?
I think for me, it's a couple of things. Excuse me. First thing was I had to make sure that I was doing the right thing at all times. So I like to talk about, not only as a leader, which a leader is everybody because everybody has ability to influence. So don't get me wrong. But in general, everybody, I don't care who you are, what you do, everybody's tentatively watching what you do. Whether it's for your company, my company in the Marine Corps, I knew that everybody was watching and judging what I did. So what's one thing I can control? What I do. My attitude specifically, because there's a lot of, lack of a better word, dumb things you have to do in the military. If I was to joke about it or, hey, I don't believe in this, I knew my team was going to do the exact same thing. So I can control that. And I love talking about things you can control, which a lot of people don't think it's a lot, but there is. Your attitude is a huge piece of that because our attitudes are contagious. If I don't care, my team's not going to care. If I do care, my team's going to care. My team's bought in, those things in itself. So that was the starting point. And that went from an attitude perspective. That was when things went wrong perspective. That was a narrative that I could control all by just the output that I put in life. That was the first thing. And the second thing was, this is a hindsight comment, but because of the fact that I had good relationships before I got promoted, it helped me out tremendously. Because if I was an a-hole or I crapped on everybody because I was bigger and better than everybody else, when I got promoted, my life would have been exponentially harder. But because I understood at face value the benefit of relationships and I got along with mostly everybody, when I got promoted, that made my life a whole lot easier. Because when I had to go to you and I just got promoted, like, hey man, I need you to do this crappy task. It's like, cool. Like, what else do you need me to do? And also I had no problem getting my hands dirty or doing the dumb things or the tasks that we had to do. So those two things I believe set me up for success, just controlling what I can control, which is myself, always setting the example at all times of the day, regardless of what I was doing. Another thing was the power of relationships. Now you can't go back in time. So because I can't go back in time, I focus on what I do now. But because I did the right thing in the past, I had those relationships, it made my life a hell of a lot easier when I got put into those positions to lead and influence those people down the road.
I love that. Did you get that, Paul?
Recorded, baby. We're good. Locked in.
I mentioned that to you because you can control yourself, right? Your attitude. And there's so much of that where guys are just, you talk about perspective, right? Instead of the, it's like the can-do attitude. We can do this, not that I have to do it, but I want to do this. It's like, let's go have a good attitude because the people that you're leading, they see that. They sniff that out so quick, like your attitude, and then whatever your attitude is, that's how the attitude of the platoon or the whole crew is going to be, right? And that's interesting. But you talk about relationships. I had this pegged for today. I'm glad you answered that question so perfectly. But I struggle sometimes because I agree with you. I think relationships is so critical, with anything we do at home, with our colleagues, our coworkers, friends. And when I looked at the relationships, and I was looking through, obviously Jocko's book, Leadership Strategy and Tactics, is such a good book. All of our foremen are going to get these tomorrow. So, but I always ask myself, how do you build a relationship? And I was like, that's a great question, because just to say it is easy, but to try to actually master the skill, it's very hard, right? So I'm going to get your thoughts on it really quick. I'm going to read it. To enhance the team's relationships and to avoid denigrating them, it is important to understand them, what a relationship is. I have identified five key attributes to a good relationship: trust, listening, respect, influence, and care. So simple. What do you think about that, Paul?
Good stuff, man. Glad I get that book too.
Yeah, you're going to get it tomorrow.
Appreciate it.
But is that how you were doing? Is that some of the tactics you were using as a young leaders through the trust and influence and building those relationships? Or can you put that in your own words?
I don't think back in the day I had the insight or the knowledge base to properly articulate what you just said. If you asked me what a relationship was back in the day, it wasn't that fancy 5-step thing that Jocko created. What I thought back in the day was, if my team or anybody asked me to do something, I was going to do it, and vice versa. So very, uneducated way to say influence, right?
Yeah.
Two people that can support each other without a headache or a confrontation. Mutual support, right? Two people that can help each other. Like, that's the goal of a team. And I understood that, hey, 2 people, 3 people, 10 people, they're part of the team, so they have to get along. And so that was my generic version back in the day. But to that point, Jocko created that because we get questions all the time about relationships. We teach relationships. But if you ask somebody, like, what is a relationship? A lot of people are like, just me and that person. And so having to expand upon that was this in itself. And so those 5 things, we call those the pillars of a relationship. Meaning, if you don't have one of those, just like if a foundation was on stilts, without one of those, you don't have a relationship. If you and I don't trust each other, we don't have a relationship. If we don't respect each other, we truly don't have a relationship. Now, the end state is, or if you want to wrap it up, care. Like, that's the ultimate form of this relationship, is you and I care about each other. Now, that's hard for a lot of people, specifically in a professional environment, because when I say I care about you, what does that mean? What I care about you is I'm going to do anything in my power to help you succeed. That's how I like to put it. Now, at home, when I care about something, that's very different. But at work, I'm going to set you up for success. I'm going to do everything in my power to help you succeed. I'm going to support you every step of the way. That's what it works. And what's ironic about those 5 things, there's 3 things that we teach that are themes of the Echelon Front material. There is tendency. Everything we teach is tendency. Second piece is counterintuitive, which is this part. And the third one is reciprocal, which will relate to this. Oftentimes we give these pillars and people ask, well, how do I get those? How do I get my team to trust me? Counterintuitive piece is intuition tells me, well, they're my subordinates, they should just trust me. No.
You got to trust them.
You give trust, you receive trust. So that's the reciprocal nature. Also the counterintuitive approach.
Right.
So all 5 of those things, you want them, you give them, which is very hard for people. You talked about ego earlier. The ego, when I'm the boss, well, my team should just respect me. They should trust me. They should listen to me. You could think that all you want, but that's not how this works. It's give and take. And when you give, you'll be surprised when you receive it in full support coming back your way. And that's how you build these bridges between people, and thus you have this relationship in itself. But the ego, you talked about ego, and I love talking about ego as well. Our egos are just so strong, and we all have them. And we never say don't have an ego, right? Often people misconstrue that. Have an ego, right? Because your ego drives you to, do this podcast and to be successful and lead a team and have family, all that stuff. But there's a line. And when you cross it, your ego has bad intentions. Because your ego cares about one person, and it's you. It doesn't care about the other person in the relationship, which is hard. And your ego knows what to say, when to say it, and how to say it to convince you you're right in everything that you do. Thus, when I'm like, I should trust Paul, my ego's like, screw that. He needs to show that I can trust him.
He needs to earn it.
Exactly. So, those 5 pillars that he's created there, I think it's crucial. Relationships is the name of the game. That's what makes us successful, because without people, without relationships, you don't have a team. Without a team, you can't do your job.
Oh yeah, and with good relationships, you can do anything, man. I mean, 100%. You can solve problems. You can celebrate. I mean, you could capitalize. You can build on it, right? And you can, when you're working with somebody with a good relationship, it's just so much more easier to maneuver when there's a problem. But also, like I said, when you're successful, you can capitalize on it. Even get better. Carlos Mendez, shout out to Los, everybody.
Yeah.
What up? He just did a keynote for the IBW Local 47 Stewards Conference, purely on relationships, and slaughtered it. And that was a really good one because I've seen, we've listened as students of extreme ownership. We've seen a lot of keynotes, right? The pillars of the laws of combat. But the way he spun those relationships, it was a good question too, is like, what if the person, I want to get your thought on this, what if the person doesn't want to build a relationship with me? Then what do I do? Because there's a lot of those out there with egos and in different businesses. I mean, what would be your answer on that one?
I think there's two sides to this. First one is, I always ask myself the question when I try to tell people is, a bad relationship doesn't help you whatsoever. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help the organization. And if I'm trying to put the team first and accomplish the mission, then I understand that a bad relationship gives me, you, the organization, no advantage whatsoever. So when I understand that perspective, then I understand like, well, now I have a choice. And I think what a lot of people have a hard time understanding is having a bad relationship with somebody is a choice. People don't like to hear that, but that's the reality. It is a choice for me not to like you. Now, is that to say you do something wrong or you treat me like crap that I can't take that into the calculus of this relationship? Absolutely. But if I understand that you and I not getting along, not being aligned doesn't help anybody whatsoever, then okay, like you are who you are and that's okay. And that's what's so hard about relationships is it's 2 people, 3 people, an organization, a melting pot of people with backgrounds, education, tendencies, personalities, ego. That's what makes relationships so hard. But if my priority is the mission and my priority is the team and my priority is the relationships, then I don't care who's in front of me. It doesn't matter. I've been around a lot of people where I didn't necessarily like them. Fine. I don't have to, go out on the weekend and introduce my family. It doesn't matter, but I'm going to get along with you because it's not about you and it's not about me. It's about the team. And so I'm going to prioritize the team by having a relationship with anybody. I don't mean people that I hate, for lack of a better word, because some people's like, well, you don't understand. I hate this person. You could hate them all you want, but don't let that decision, your ego, get in the way of just 2 people that can support each other. I cannot like you, but can I work with you? That's still a relationship in itself. Because at the end of the day, I still have to be able to support you. You support me to get the job done in itself.
Yeah. No, perfect answer, man. It's exactly what Carlos was talking about, is if you put the team and mission first, the relationship piece, it'll actually come at some point because you guys are all working towards the same goal. So it's a really good outlook on it. So now you're with, just to kind of step forward a little bit. So now obviously you want to talk through Echelon Front. How did you get part of that team?
So I know you talked to Carlos. Carlos' introduction was JP. My introduction was JP. So I've known JP for a long time. When I got out of the military, I went to school in Arizona, and JP asked me to come support a training up in Michigan. So JP, the training detachment, in the military, we do a lot of exercises. You do a lot of field training exercises, just like in the military, where it's a final exercise, a culminating exercise to test somebody's skills. Well, Jocko Leif, JP, had this idea to start this FTX for Echelon Front. Now, the hesitancy I had coming out was, here was JP running corporate America through missions. And I mean like capture kill missions with laser tags. And I'm coming out and I read the book and I was like, it's just leadership. It's laser tag. Like,
what is this? Yeah.
What is this and how is it going to apply? And so I was a bit skeptical. And so I go out in 2018. I'm going to support JP. I've known JP, power of relationships. I'd do anything for JP. And JP's like, hey man, I just need someone I can trust. Somebody that's going to help me get this off the ground. Like basically a hired gun, for lack of a better word. So I come out to support JP. And in a day, I mean, I had full intention to go into law enforcement. I was in backgrounds with Sac County Sheriff. Like, that's what I was doing. You could not change my mind. But I went out and saw JP, and I saw a client up in Michigan that wanted no part of being there. I mean, people that are just whipping out their cell phone, watching movies while JP's talking. Oh, man. People that are leaving mid-training before we even start. And I'm like, JP, like, you do this for a living? And to see some of the mindsets to where people like asleep before JP's talking. People that are like, I'm not writing anything down. I've been doing this for 30 years. You have nothing new to teach me. This is a SEAL thing. And to see the end of the day, the transition where people are just aha moments, people breaking down crying. Like, I've been a poor father for 30 years. Like, it was mind blowing. And to see somebody do that in one day, I started asking myself, like, what if JP was around for like the next couple of years and he can do that with these people? What can he do with an organization? Then I saw Jocko and met Jocko, and then I met the rest of the team, and to see what they could do in a day, and then to see that they were working with clients for a long extended period of time, that they were changing lives. And in my head, I had this I couldn't figure out like how were they able to do this. It's leadership. And then I started to learn like what leadership actually is. It's just influence, and it's a skill that everybody can learn. And so after that training, I went back, talked to my wife. I'm like, hey, they have this big client. They're gonna be up there for a couple of years. Like, JP needs help. Maybe it's just a temporary thing. I can always be a cop. I could be a cop right now. I'm 32 years old. I could still go do that. But this opportunity with Echelon Front to see what they were doing, I was all in. And so I started off, I was a role player where JP would run these runs. And I mean, we're doing capture kill runs with laser tag, completely safe, but it's a test of the material. Because we talked about this earlier, and tomorrow we're doing a presentation for your guys. The stuff that we teach isn't rocket science. It's pretty simple. It's relationships, communication. It's don't be emotional. Empower other people. Just take responsibility. You mess something up. When people traditionally hear that, they're like, I do those things. I am a team player. I communicate effectively. Like, you ask somebody, hey, out of a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you communicate? A lot of people are like, 10 out of 10, I'm great. And so this FTX that we now have, it's the test. Because what we do is we put people in an uncomfortable environment where they don't have a baseline. We stress them out. And when I say stress, all I have to do is start my stopwatch and people get stressed out. Like, they lose their mind. And when you are stressed out, you fall back to your tendencies. We all have tendencies as human. Some people have the tendency when they get stressed out to just, I'm going to do anything in my power to keep myself alive. Screw the team. Some people shut down, like they just disappear. Some people listen to their ego. Some people get emotional. Some people control and dictate the situation. And so in those scenarios, we're showing people like, hey guys, this is what you're doing. And they're like, I didn't see that. Because tendencies are really hard to see from your own perspective. Unless you guys are filming me, walking around, and showing me what I do every day, my ego just tells me I'm crushing it. I am the greatest communicator that ever lived. And then I go to this FTX, I'm like, I suck. I really need to figure this out. And so watching that, and then now that I've taken that over, I started there. I did about 3 years working under JP. JP got promoted to Chief Training Officer. I took the keys to the FTX program. Now that's my program that I get to run. And so it's just the test of the curriculum that we have. And it's an honor that I have. I get to, go across the country teaching leadership in that form, the hands-on application. The PowerPoint and that stuff, the speeches that we do, they're great, but there's just something different when you're trying this stuff out. And people in real time are like, man, I didn't do that. Why didn't I not do that?
Yeah.
Let me show you. How do I get better? I have a tool for you. In real time, it's really cool to uncover what people are going through in those environments.
We found that lessons learned, and we talked on our call and before our conference that we're going to do, and you're right. We you get out of that keynote, JP and Los, and we saw Jocko and Dave and all of them, right? And you come out of it, you're just pumped, like you're ready to take on the world, right? But to your point is like, now you got to go out and apply those principles, and that's the hard part. That's the hard part, because even as a leader, or I'm 46 years old, and I still go back to my tendencies that I've had, unless I audit myself, check myself, and be like do physical things to go back to that leadership loop to make those decisions or whatever that is. So I'm actually really looking forward to tomorrow. I know we're going to probably touch on it at the end. Paul's got a little segment there, but it's something that interesting for me. It was a question when you were talking there is, so when you went and did this FTX, this was the first time that this was the first time you came across the principles then?
Yes, sir.
So, that had to have been different for you. Like a unique situation where you're like kind of skeptical. You were going to go, run this, or you're going to go help out with this FTX. What was your first, was it all come so natural for a while there? It's like things that you were already doing, right, in the military?
Yeah, I just didn't have the framework or the verbiage to support it. And then once I started to see, like, I understand teamwork in the Marine Corps, teamwork, like we're a team, like we have to work together. And to see that, the most eye-opening thing for me is when JP and the other instructors are teaching and they're going through this framework, is I saw a lot of mistakes that they were making that I would make or that the other Marines were to make. And then I started to make this connection that, and this is where the skepticism got relieved, was they make the same mistakes. They're doing the right thing that we're doing, but we're in two completely environments. Why is that? Because leadership is universal. And so once I saw that, it was just like this, oh, I get it now. Like, these are universal leadership principles. Yeah. It's not about the combat. That's where they came from, but these things work in the Marine Corps. They work in the Navy. They work in the Gas and Electric Company. They work as a father, as a husband. And that's when it clicked. And I was like, I get it now. The skepticism's relieved. And then you could see it in the client, like they get it as well. Like this is just where we learned it. It applies to everything. These aren't X's and O's on the battlefield. They're X's and O's in human interaction. And that was very, very different. So that was the aha. And that's when I was just, I'm dropping everything that I'm doing. I'm full on board.
Yeah.
And at the time, I mean, we were going through it. I moved back home with my mom. I was living with my mom at 26 years old, out of the Marine Corps. I was going through background. It was taking forever. I was working construction, making $500 every 2 weeks to clear out burned down buildings. Like we were going through it. And so I'll say a leap of faith lightly, but I really didn't know what I was getting into. I knew JP. I trusted JP wholeheartedly. He's like, dude, like this is going to work. I was like, cool. Like, tell me where to go and where to be.
You may have mentioned it too. How'd you meet JP then? How did you guys become so close?
Our parents grew up in the same circles.
Okay.
He's from Sacramento as well.
Okay.
And so we crossed paths. He was a little older. I never had an older brother. I have a younger sister. And so someone that I could look up to, I found myself around a lot. And then when he went in the Navy, that played a indirect role down the road as well on me joining the Marine Corps.
Gotcha. I didn't tie that. Did you tie that together?
No, I don't think it's been brought up. And I think this is kind of the first time we've heard Codey's Marine Corps story and brought a little bit out of it. So it's nice.
Oh, it is cool. I don't want to tie you up too much, man, but I'm really excited about this podcast because, like I said before, man, you tie it just so well to the personal life and, you know, as a professional too. And that's what we're trying to do is just tie these principles in. I mean, they were introduced to me in 2016 or something, 17, you know, a young leader. And man, I wish I would have had these principles at 21 years old, 25 years old, 22 years old, right? Like this would have probably changed the trajectory of my life. Going back, right? Just the simple ones, you know, just to check my ego a little bit, be a little bit more humble, you know, building relationships along the way. I mean, those little things would have been so that's what we're trying to do, is just try to get that message out there. So now you've been at Echelon Front for 5 years or so?
Yeah,
More?
January 19 was my official start day.
Yeah.
And then I ran on the backside for JP, and now I've been in this role for 2 years.
So if you had to pick Keynote or FTXs, what are you doing?
Very biased opinion, FTXs. The keynotes do get us in the door.
Yeah.
It is hey, this is what we can do, and a lot of epiphanies happen during the keynotes, but there's nothing better than, because when people come to an FTX, I have them rate themselves before the day. Like, hey, how much of a team player are you? How well do you communicate? How often do you overreact? Do you empower others? Do you take ownership? And traditionally everyone's 8s, 9s, 10s. I don't allow them to use 7 because that's a safe place. So you have to 1 through 10, you can't use 7. And everybody's typically 7, 8, 9s. And then at the end of the day, it's 3, 4, 5s, which is fine. I want them just to be honest. And then throughout the day, we're giving them tools. Hey, you're now a 4. Let me get you to a 6. Here's how. Is it going to take some time? Absolutely. It takes some discipline. Yes. But now you have tools to get you to where you want to go. I say con lightly to the keynote is people leave there. I'm a 10, I'm a 10, I'm a 10. And implementation doesn't happen. Or they run into roadblocks like, oh, I knew that wasn't going to work. But this stuff doesn't happen overnight. Leadership isn't an inoculation where I do a training for your team and it's just cool, shake hands, like go forth. Nothing ever is going to go wrong. Like, no, you leave, like you're going to get punched in the face with problems from people and clients. And that's why it's so hard to do these things in itself.
Yeah. No, so good, man. You want to take a little pause there, producer?
You ready? Yeah, man.
You wanna?
Yeah.
I know he's got some questions there.
Yeah, we got some good ones. You ready?
Yeah, man. I'd like for you to take over for a little bit. Give me a break.
Get you a sip of that Jocko Go.
Yeah, let's guess some.
Jocko. All right, cool. Like Raul said, we're going to take a pause with producer Paul. This is powered by Dragonwear, the fan favorite Dragonwear Pro Dry Tech shirts, arriving in 2 new colors, starting with high-vis yellow in long sleeve style, launching June 17th, and khaki in both long sleeve with a hood, launching shortly after in early July. Sign up for the Dragonwear newsletter on dragonwear.com. Be the first to know when they drop. Raul, how's the rodeo team looking in the Dragonwear there?
So good. So smooth, so fly. I mean, everybody wants those shirts. Go get some if you can. I know our guys love them.
Yeah, there you go. Good
It's
job.
looking good, too. And you know what? Shout out to the rodeo team. I mean, doing an excellent job. Great start of the season. Competing well, looking sharp, looking like the guys are training. I'm really excited to see how they do.
Yeah, doing good.
Remaining season. Yep.
Hard work. All right, let's kick this off. Codey, I got a question for you. This kind of helps me out too. I do some volunteering with veterans and stuff, and it's part of that conversation. And then Raul, this kind of works in Raul's job role too, as on the board for the Cal Nev JTC. The question comes up a lot of traveling, and for me, getting out of the military, you're always kind of like, I'm done with traveling. I'm good. I want to be home. I want some normal life. and then here you are, you're traveling again with Echelon Front a lot. How'd you kind of put that into your a safe spot to feel comfortable with? Because I mean, as soon as you get in the military, I was like, bro, I don't want to travel again. I've spent a lot of time away from home. I just want to relax. And then now here you are, you're putting some miles on, bro. Mm-hmm. And to Raul's point is a lot. I'm sorry to cut you off. To Raul's point, a lot of the guys, the apprenticeship, the question is, hey, you're going to be on the road. You're going to be traveling. This is a career that travels. Raul, right?
Oh yeah, we tell them all the time. I mean, you gotta. Most of these guys are, they got girlfriends and wives, and I think you got to do it as a partner. You got to You got to have alignment between each other. That's the one thing. If maybe it's not a wife or a girlfriend, maybe it's just family in general. I think if you can align with family and let them know, the power of the why behind it, I think you're gonna be way more successful because your mindset's gonna be at ease. So I'm interested to hear what Codey has to say.
I don't even have to say anything because you just stole my answer. But no, I think for me, what's funny about, we travel a bunch. I think last year, just on a standard engagement, so a keynote, half day, full day, I think we did 500 total between the instructors. Some instructors more busy than others. Some instructors have departments or they fall under departments. So everybody's a little different. When I met my wife, she specifically told me, hey, I never would have dated you when you were in the Marine Corps, just due to the fact that you'd be gone and all these things and the inherent risk. And obviously, there's not a lot of risk compared to when I was in the Marine Corps now, but I travel probably more than when I was in the Marine Corps. So that part worked out a little weirdly with my wife. But for me, to your point, the alignment piece, I know we've talked about parenting a lot. I think alignment between spouses is one of the biggest things you have to make sure for a bunch of reasons. When it comes to work, if me and my wife aren't aligned, bad things are going to happen. She's going to think I'm doing something else. She thinks I care about different things. Just assumptions are made. And I know assumptions, it's a bad word, bad things happen from assumptions. A way to mitigate assumptions is by being aligned in itself. Mm-hmm. And so alignment is the name of the game from a professional side. On a personal side, if me and my wife aren't aligned on how we want to raise kids, bad things are going to happen. I want to go left. She wants to go right. That's when kids pick sides, play mom, play dad, etc. We have to be on the same page. But that's hard though, because me and my wife, we're two different people. We both have different egos and different personalities and different upbringings and different parenting styles. Not to say you can't be different, but you still have to be on the same page. And so alignment is the name of the game. But outside of that, I know you talked about the why. I always say, for me, I'm aligned with my wife on why I'm doing what I'm doing, but the mission that we're trying to achieve. Now, she's come out to events before. She took place in our women's assembly last year, which is an all-female gathering, very similar to the Muskrat for women. She was on the panel. She's read the book. She does the principle. So she understands my attempt, which is to impact people, to change people's lives. Because of we're aligned on the mission, it's a little bit easier for her to be like, hey, it's Father's Day. You're going to go on a flight. That's okay. Now, the balance is because we're aligned and because we have a good relationship, we have open communication. There's been years past, a couple years ago, where I hit my right lateral limit for travel to where, hey, this is becoming too much. Oftentimes, those conversations don't have. And now a spouse resents a spouse, but it's never talked about. And then it blows up in the face I didn't want you to be gone. I didn't know. I know when it becomes too much because we are aligned, we're on the same page, and we have open forms of communication. And when my wife does tell me it's too much, I have to listen. I'd be like, well, too bad. I can say that all I want, but what's nice for me, and I'll say this is a luxury, I have a choice with how much I travel for the most part. If I want to block off a week, when I took my boys to Seattle to a baseball game, I can do that as long as I let the team know this is my calendar and this is what we're doing. Mm-hmm. Last part is, regardless of how long you're gone, so for me, I am gone a lot. This week, I go home tomorrow. I'm gone the rest of the week. I get home, taking a red eye Friday night to get home Saturday. I leave Sunday for the whole week. It's just busy.
How many days do you travel, you think, a year?
Last year was 230.
Miles.
That's miles.
It's gold status Marriott.
Dude, that's a Marriott, dude. Bob,
they got a parking spot for you guys.
Got your name on the room, bro.
I get 2 free water bottles when I go to the room. So the question comes when you're talking about travel and being gone, regardless of what occupation, is this concept of balance. I think a lot of people feel that balance is 50-50. I don't think that's possible. Even from a travel standpoint, I'm gone more days in the year than I'm home. So I can't do 50-50. What I've found to be successful is just being intentional with the time that I have. Mm-hmm. So when I'm gone, for example, you're my client, I'm here with you, I'm all in 99%. There's a 1% that if I see this thing flashing, I know that Some of my kids have some health things. If that flashes, like, I know what's going on and I would pause. That's the 1%. Tomorrow morning, like, I'm all yours, whatever you want to do. I'm staying for lunch, all those things. When I'm on site, when I'm gone, I'm all in with what I'm doing. I have to be. I don't have a choice. Like, who I represent, the team that I represent, what I'm doing, my why, I have to be focused and dialed in. Now, when I'm home, I flip it, and now I'm the opposite. If I'm home, when I come home this week and I'm home for one day, I can't half-ass it. I'm all in with my kids. Because my kids, sure, I am gone, and they're starting to notice and a little bit older now, but what I don't want them to do is when I do go home, they say or they think, I wish dad was gone, because when he's here, he's not really here. Like, that would break my heart. So when I'm home, I'm all in. When I'm home tomorrow after lunch with you guys, I'm going home. My kids know we're going fishing. Do I really want to go fishing when it's 115 degrees? No, but that's what my kids want to do, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to make that memory. I'm going to make the time. So when you make the most of the time that you have, you don't truly have to be 50-50, because sometimes I'm 80-20, sometimes I'm 99-1. But what I want my kids, my family to understand is when I'm home, I'm there. No ifs, ands, or buts. And the hard part about that is sometimes does work bleed into home? Yes. Sometimes I have to step away and make a phone call? Yes. But when I do have the opportunity to come back, it's all in intention with everything that I can be.
There you go. Best dad advice. You heard it here.
Tab that.
I mean, but dude, to your point, like, straight up, that's not easy to do, especially
100%.
when you're in your role. I mean, you probably get texts, emails. I mean, I can't even imagine what your calendar looks like with the 200 plus days of traveling. But I can tell you that's not easy to do, even for me. And if you're at home, when you're a leader of a company, I mean, even in your mindset, you're thinking about what I'm doing tomorrow, or I got this thing, right? But I think if you make a conscious effort, you can be more productive if you're doing exactly what you're saying, So yeah, you heard it here in Power Element. There you go.
That's it. Like, all right, we're gonna stick right there. Speaking of instructors, we got a question from Los.
You
can find him on Instagram at Carlos_Mendez_246. Shout out Los. He was on episode 19. If you haven't listened to that, check it out. Codey gave us some insight. He listened to episode 19 on the flight.
Yeah.
Here.
One more listen.
All right, cool. This is going to be aligned with the last question here, but Carlos was asking Codey, he wants to know about the ability that you possess to detach. How has that helped you be both a husband and a father for?
Yeah, so detachment is, if those that aren't familiar with our curriculum, there's 4 laws that we teach. The third law is called prioritize and execute, where I have 10 things going on at once. I try to solve all 10. I can't do it. So I assess what has the biggest impact on my mission. I take that down, go to number 2, number 3, number 4. It's extremely challenging, though, because in the midst of priorities, I have different opinions. I have a client that wants this. I have a coworker that wants this. It gets stressful. And when we're stressed out, we typically make the wrong decisions because of ego, emotions, or perspective. What we teach, the tool that we teach to combat that is called detachment. And this is the hardest tool that we teach at Echelon Front. What detachment is not allowing your ego, emotions, perspective to dictate what you do. But that's extremely hard. Why? Because we all have egos, we all have emotions, we all have perspective, and we like to listen to those things. And so specifically on the home front, and again, we talked about this earlier, these things are harder to implement at home. Detachment, it falls under a bunch of stuff. So one thing, it's a skill. That's a good thing for everybody. It is a skill. And it's not a skill that you need to go to a formal training to learn. Like everybody, every single day has the opportunity to train this. What do I mean by that? You're driving on the freeway and you get cut off. Well, now you have a choice on what you do. You can express how well you know sign language and do that. You can use some fancy verbiage to tell somebody how you feel. Like when you do that, you're not detaching. You're doing the wrong thing. You're playing to your ego and to your emotions. That right there is a moment. And training, like to build a habit, which is how you lead to a tendency, you have to start small. So every day it's the freeway. It's you know how many times I get delayed at the airport? You know how many times I watch people go yell at the airline attendant on how it's their fault the weather changed? Like, it's mind-blowing. Like, those people don't know how to detach. So every day I'm aware that I'm going to have opportunities. I'm going to get a phone call from someone that's upset. Okay, now it's time to practice detachment. I get an email from my boss. Okay, now it's the time to detach. My kid uses Sharpie on the wall. Now it's the time to detach. What I love to talk about detachment is I think everybody has regret in their life. You regret how you treated someone. You regret what you did. Detachment can mitigate regret, meaning you have less of it. Is it going to eliminate it? No, because we're all human. But I don't know a lot of people that are really happy and excited after they treat their spouse or kid like crap. They regret it.
The regret. Yeah.
And you can learn hindsight, or you can learn before. How you learn before is by detaching. And detachment, I know Carlos specifically talked about red flags. Every human being has a cue in your body that tells you you're about to get upset. You have physical red flags, which is I clench my fist, I grit my teeth, my leg is shaking, my heartbeat's at 154.
The vein.
Those are red flags. The vein in your forehead, those are physical. Mental red flags, like I know Carlos specifically is when he doesn't know what to do. Mine is when I have to ask for help. When I in my head and I say I need to ask for help, I typically don't do it because I think that's weak and I think you're not supposed to do that. So when I hear that, I know that's exactly what I need to do. So when you're aware of your red flags, you'll find yourself being able to detach a lot quicker. Red flags are hard. You learn those through training. You learn those from asking people around you. Your coworkers, your spouse knows exactly what your red flags are. You train this every day, you'll find yourself having an easier time doing it. Because what I think a lot of people have a hard time, specifically as a boss or as a parent, is we treat people poorly. We yell at them. We're direct. We, put our kids on timeout. We make them go to bed early. Why? Well, truly why is we've done a bad job leading them, but we treat them like crap. We regret it, and now we have to apologize, and we feel like crap the rest of the night. Like, you don't have to learn the hard way. When you don't detach, you learn things the hard way. When you do detach, you learn things before it needs to happen. We say it's a superpower because not people can do it. It takes a long time to master, and tentatively allows you to see into the future, which I know is a crazy thing you tell your kids about Superman, but I'll give you a hypothetical. If, Paul, my boss, is right in front of me and he tells me something I get upset about, I detach, I think about what I'm going to say, I can see the future. If I tell Paul this, how is he going to respond? He's going to hate that. He's going to fire me. He's going to yell at me. Okay. But if I say this, what's going to happen? Oh, he's actually going to be okay. Like it's going to de-escalate, etc. I just saw a potential outcome in life that's seeing into the future. So this detachment piece, it's not easy. It's a simple concept. Just, hey, don't listen to your ego next time. Good luck. Don't listen to those emotions that all of us have. Good luck. Listen to other people and their perspective. Good luck. But when you train it every day in the small things, then you'll start to master them. When the big things happen, you'll have an easier job trying to detach in those moments.
I never heard that before. I've always heard, the instructors, saying that to detachment is a superpower. I love that. But to say you can see into the future is pretty cool, right? Because that's true. Because you're playing that in your head. I find it sometimes very difficult to detach. And I don't know what ways you do it. I was talking to one of our employees and, asking me, how do you, what's the way that you detach? Like, how do you figure that out? And I have to physically do something, either step back, breathe. Sometimes I'll just take my pen and move it to the side just to do something physical to make sure that, I'm completely detaching for that moment to really think about it. What are some of the things you do?
Yeah, I think everybody's different. It's like whatever, because all these thoughts typically are in your head.
Yeah.
If you can keep yourself busy doing something else with the tap, with write something down, with the step away, that's going to help you. You're really de-escalating yourself, which is a crazy concept in itself. Yeah. I know Jocko teaches the chin
choke,
the chin hold or whatever.
Yep. So when if we're in a meeting and we're going around the table and he has something to say, he'll just do this. Where he's forcing himself, like, I'm not going to say anything. That's a very, and for him, that's not really detaching, but that's just something that you can do. I think everybody's different. Whatever can take your mind off of the thought sets you have, when you get really good at it, and what I've started to do is, the thoughts come in, and I know right away, oh, that's the ego. Like, nope, that's the ego. Ego for the wrong way.
It's a skill, though.
It's a skill.
That's what I'm trying to get to, is that it's not easy. Like, you have to, it's that red flag.
Yep.
And then you have to physically step back or do something to think about it. And then, God, it's just such a way better response or an action that you're doing, that next step.
Yeah. And
it's so awesome.
And I learned this my whole life. I never learned that that's what it was called, but my dad showed me the power of, not escalating or being a little more stoic. Like, that's a form of detachment. I learned in the Marine Corps the power of detachment from a perspective standpoint, to where I see something this way and I take 2 steps that way and I see the answer to my problem. Like, how did you do that? Like, just detached. I'm over there. So this thing I've started to learn my whole life, and then I came to Echelon Front, I learned it, and I love talking about it. I think a lot of people have this thought, and it falls under the training category, but a lot of people think that when push comes to shove, when people are dying, or the worst case scenario, that they're just going to figure it out. That's not how it works. I see, and if we have time, I'd love to talk about, this detachment. I know Carlos talked about my kids. Detachment has saved me in a lot of instances with my kids, with a lot of things I wasn't prepared for. My oldest son has complex febrile seizures, and watching him go through that was terrifying. And I didn't know what to do, and I had to ask for help, but I didn't want to. And so learning from those experiences, he's had, 6 in the last 2 years. He had 1 in December. Learning through those things has helped me along the way, and debriefing with my wife on, hey, when this happens again, this is what we're going to do. The first time this happened, we're like ER, paramedic, like all this stuff, because we didn't know what to do. And now this just happened in December. I say this slightly, like it was nothing. My wife looked at me. She goes, hey, it's going to happen. I was like, okay. I told my 5-year-old, hey, take your sisters in the other room. And watching my wife with no military training or echelon
Medical
front training, just
yeah.
handled it like a professional. I'm like, oh, that's it? Like, what's next?
Yeah.
And I say thankful lightly, to go through that with my son, because last year my daughter had a very severe accident where she fell about 12 feet, fractured her skull, to where for about 30 seconds I didn't know she was alive. Being able to be calm, which that's what detachment can give you, is to remain calm. Calm is contagious, as we talked about earlier. So is chaos. Being detached in that moment, and when I say detached, it's not that I wasn't there. I'm just trying to see what I can do to help the situation. And dropping down, she fell through a baseball bleacher about 12 feet, smacked her head, fractured her skull. As I dropped down, the longest 30 seconds of my life, walking over to her where I didn't see her breathing. She wasn't moving. She wasn't crying. Picking her up. Everything's starting to cycle back in. I want to panic. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. And try to remain as calm as I can. And now I start to gather information because I know what's going to happen. And I've never been in this situation before, but I know ambulance is coming, paramedics coming. They're looking to me to give them the information. What can I control as myself? My daughter's looking to me. She's 2 years old. If I'm chaos, if I'm screaming, if I'm crying, she's going to do the same thing. So I'm trying to de-escalate my emotions in itself and then pass her off and everything gets handled and she's good to go. But those moments in life, things that we're not prepared for, the unknown is scary. What's unique about the unknown, we have another instructor named Sean Glass at Echelon Front. When he was at Tradent, when he was in Jocko's role, they tried to calculate what was the most stressful part of the job. Was it when people yelled at him? Was it the music? Was it the gunshots? And what they found was the most stressful due to data from electronics was when the team stacked up on side of the door and they're about to make entrance, the unknown effect of I don't know what's on the other side, that was when people were most freaked out or stressed out. And so the unknown is absolutely terrifying. Detachment allows you to handle any situation you're thrown your way. It doesn't matter if you've been there. It doesn't matter if you've done that. If you have no experience, like I don't care. I was not prepared whatsoever. That wasn't in the baby books. I didn't go through that in life, but by being detached and mastering that skill, I don't care what's thrown my way. Personally and professionally, like I know I can tentatively handle it because I'm not listening to my ego. I'm not listening to my emotions. I'm gaining perspective. I'm remaining calm, and I can seek out help or whatever I need to be.
Boom.
Nailed
there you
it.
go. Nailed it.
All right, cool. Here we're going to keep it going. Lighten it up a little bit. Questions from the gram. You ready, Raul?
Oh, question from the gram. Let's do it.
All right, we got 2 questions from Ben Holmes at Working Class 013. Codey, he wants to know your favorite song going into battle. And then he wants to know spoon or fork when you eat mac and cheese.
Well, that one's spork.
Spork. That's you got a favorite MRE? Or?
Favorite MRE? I think the classic chili mac is the chili mac's the go-to. There's a guy who's just on Jocko's podcast, Veteran with a Sign, and he's doing he takes MREs and he's doing the at home, making them. It's bringing a lot of memories back.
Do you miss MREs?
No.
They don't fit that diet.
No. Favorite song?
Battle song.
Going into battle.
Or do you have a song too before you go on stage? Muster? A little hype song?
So I've listened freshman year. So this is a little corny, so bear with me.
Nickelback. Is it Nickelback?
No, it's not Nickelback.
He loves this. He loves this, by the way.
I know. I can see it. I can feel it. There was a movie, and then there was a show, Friday Night Lights. You guys familiar with that show?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the football movie.
Yeah.
Obviously, big football fan.
Yeah.
The soundtrack for that movie, there's a band called Explosions in the Sky out of Texas. There's no words. It's like 12 minutes a song. I've listened to that album, those songs, since I was 13 years old, a freshman in high school, still today. My kids, when I put them to bed, that's the songs that I play. Anything that I do, the flight here, there's no words. I can't sing it, but I know exactly what's coming. It's very peaceful for me. And when I think of whatever I'm about to go to, like having some sense of peace or calmness, he's playing it right now.
I'm trying to get it.
Playing Your Hand Is Mine. That's the name of the song, by the way.
That's awesome.
That's what I've listened to for as long as I can remember, regardless of what's going on. My kids call it sleepy music, which it's very calm and peaceful, and that's what I try to be in anything that I do is best that I can be. So I know it's not some cool Black Sabbath or thing like
AC/DC
that.
or so.
So I could play.
What about you, man?
A couple songs.
I mean, you're in the Navy. What was going on with you?
I wasn't in battle, bro. I was in a ship.
Okay, what were you listening to in the ship?
Bro, it was like, 50 Cent was huge in the club.
50 Cent? Oh, up
Yeah,
in the
we were
club?
we were going to Cartagena, Colombia, and it was like popping. Like you go to these bars, and it was crazy. Anyways, we won't go down that road. Another podcast.
Another time.
Another question from the podcast you had with JP. He wouldn't call you one of his best friends. You got any insight on that? He refused to call you best friend.
He refused to come? Yeah, I know.
He didn't recognize you. Sore subject. Well, I'll change it. I see it. I see it. I see it.
It's a work in progress.
Shift.
This is a campaign, as we've talked about.
He's usually better at these questions. I'm a little disappointed.
No, they're good. We're going to step it up right now. Here we go.
Step it up. Let's go.
All right. From LinkedIn, Jason B. He's a part of the Vimosity team. We're going to meet tomorrow. Codey, you see them tomorrow. Mm-hmm. He wants to know, how does building discipline differ from building habits? How are they same? What is more powerful? What you got?
I think they're the same. So when I think of, tendencies is everything that we do. I have the tendency to be detached. I have the tendency not to be detached. I have the tendency to be outspoken. I have the tendency to shut down. Tendencies are what we do, what we tend to do. That's the tendency. We have human tendencies. Some are good, some are bad. They're also not set in stone, which is a good thing. If you have bad tendencies, like, we can help you. I can help you get to A to B. How you help people change this tendency is by building habits. Habits to detach. It's a skill. How you build habits is by having discipline. Because what discipline is, it's time, effort, energy. It's things you don't want to do. It's sacrificing what you want now for what you want most. I think all those things, I would happily group them in the same bucket. It takes discipline to build habits, and when you build habits, you build tendencies, and when you build tendencies, you're off to a better place. But that's not easy, because when you think of discipline, you think of tendency. Our tendency isn't to be disciplined. Our tendency is to be lazy. We don't like to wake up early. We like to sleep in. We don't like to eat healthy. We like to eat McDonald's. Like, that's the tendency that you face. And how you break that tendency is by building habits. How you build habits is by being disciplined. So for me, it comes full circle with all three of those things.
Very good. Raul, I'm going to keep it going real quick.
Go for it.
John Irvine from Access Limited. Shout out to John. Got to hang out with him in the IEEE. He wants to know, or he says, discipline is a learned behavior, and the USMC instills discipline better than any organization in the world. What systems, procedures, or techniques can we use to promote discipline within our organization to help drive safety and productivity? Codey Gandy.
I would agree. The USMC mindset on discipline, very disciplined in itself. That's what they teach you from day one. And what they don't tell you is there is a very specific reason why. There was a YouTube video a couple of years ago from a Marine Corps general talking about, hey, there's a reason why we remain disciplined, because when you can be disciplined in making your bed and shining your shoes in your uniform, like, you can be disciplined in everything. The small things carry over to the big things, and the big things in battle is, hey, I need you to shoot at this target at this heading. I need you to drop a bomb on this grid at this time. These things, like, that discipline carries over. So you start small in order for it to affect big. As far as, discipline, how I like to achieve it, I know we talked about, the mission and the why. For me, when you have a strong why, and for me, my why is to be a good example for my coworkers, is to always earn my seat at the table. My why at home is my family. Like, the reason why I do things, why I talk, why I speak, why I do everything is for my family. When that why is strong, when I say strong, you have a good foundation. We understand that discipline is needed to support that why. Sometimes I have to stay up late to work out. I work out because that's what I'm supposed to do as a father. I set the example. I want to be there when my kids are older to play with the grandkids. Like, that's my why. And when my why is strong enough, discipline is a little easier to follow. And I think people that are not disciplined, an easy way to, get off the couch is to start small. Just like with habits, you start small. You eat McDonald's every day, don't go cold turkey. It's you start small. You just stop drinking soda. Then after that, you stop going every day of the week. And then eventually you get to a place when people go cold turkey, like, tomorrow I'm just going to run 100 miles, even though I've never ran half a mile. Like, you get shut down real quick, and you're like, I can never do that. Discipline, habits, tendencies, it's a campaign approach. It takes time. Discipline takes time. It takes patience. It takes effort. But when you start that way, you start to see that it is beneficial, then it typically becomes second nature. That's why Jocko Jocko wakes up at 4:34 every morning. Started off small. This is something that he can do, and now he's seeing the benefits of it. And when you see the benefits of strong work, dedication, discipline itself, it's a lot easier to manage when you wake up. You're like, I want to press snooze. You're like, no, I'm not going to negotiate with myself, and then discipline just holds strong.
Good stuff.
Good job.
All right, cool. We're going to keep this rolling. We're going to shift a little bit, being a Father's Day special. Here we go. This is titled Questions to Ask Your Dad. Ooh, someone's bumping.
I thought that was you.
The bass. Here we go. Raul, we'll start with you. Cody's had a little gauntlet. Give him a
He's
break.
done great.
Raul, what is your happiest memory with your dad? Shout out to my dad, East Texas, and REI Utility Solutions, or Services, excuse me. I know they listen to the podcast.
Yeah, shout out. The most happiest memory with my dad?
That's correct.
Well, my dad, I got a lot of them, man. It's hard to pick one, obviously. I think the time just him as our coach, growing up, throwing the ball. I mean, those are all happy times. He's always supported me all the time with anything. I could always go to him, even when the call was probably one he didn't want to hear. And I know the conversation I had with him just when I started driving in high school, it was, look, there's going to be times you don't want to call me, but you're going to have to call me. So I think having that open line of communication for probably the most happiest. He was a hard man though. Like he used to kick my ass. There's no doubt about it. And when it comes to making me work hard, right? Like he was always there, pushing me and making me a better man, making sure I was honest, and doing the right thing. So yeah, I had a lot of happy moments with my dad. Love you, Pops. You just heard a conversation with him
just
a little bit ago. They're going to Ireland, and the tone of his voice, and he's trying to tee up, if something were to happen, he's very good planner, both my parents. And so yeah, I got a lot of good times with them. Love my pops. So
yeah, they told you they loved you and they're proud of you. I mean,
it was good. It was really good to hear right before the podcast today, just to talk to my mom and dad. So it was good.
Yeah, for sure. Game day, same question. What you got, brother?
So I talked to my dad too right before on my drive over. So for me, it's three things. The coaching thing, I think that's something a lot of kids remember. Just my dad at my football practices in full uniform because he was going to shift after. Like I vividly remember, and I can see it in my eyes. My dad with the flat top that was like the hairdo back in the day. That's something I always remember. When my kids were born and watching my dad transition from a dad to a papa is what he's effectively called in my house. That was unique for me. And then whenever I came back from the Marine Corps, we did some family photos, and I was in uniform. My dad was in uniform, and as much as I was proud of the accomplishment, like it's an accomplishment to become a Marine, my dad was more proud of me and proud of what he attributed to me accomplishing that in itself. And so to see that in him as a very stoic, hard person was eye-opening, and to see that he did have emotions underneath it all at the same time. But it's been very cool for me to see him transition from a dad into a grandfather, and now what he's doing with my kids. Even though we live in different states, we're coming back for the 4th of July and spending some time with him. And I know there was memories, and there will be memories moving forward that I can still always remember.
Absolutely. Here we go.
Awesome.
Raul, what were those first few days of fatherhood like for you?
Whew, scary. That's for sure. But I was so proud. I was so happy. I was looking at that little girl. I knew I had to change for sure. There was something in me that clicked. It was a switch that I had to better myself when she was born. I could feel the little bit of anxiety, set in. Like there's a little human being here that I gotta step up and be a man. In my back of my mind, I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? Right. I mean, fortunately in our trade, we can provide in our trade. We have a good job, and, it's sustainable too, good insurance and those types of things were always in my head. But I really did want to make a difference in myself. That's what I was thinking. I wanted to make a difference in myself so that, I'm going to grow old. I'm going to be with her. I'm going to be a mentor for her, and get those conversations that I'm getting now, that she can come to me with anything that she's thinking of. So kind of went on there, but yeah.
Cody, what you got?
As weird as it to say, I've wanted to be a dad for a long time. I I remember when I was in 8th grade, they had this program where the 8th graders got to hang out with the kindergartners, and I used to babysit my neighbors a lot. And watching my dad and how much fun he would have with me, like that's something that I always wanted. I always thought I'd have kids earlier. I had them when I was 26, which I know is not relatively old, but not relatively young. So it was something I was looking forward to. And then I know we've talked about tendency all night. We have the tendency to be selfish. And when you become a parent, you're not allowed to be selfish anymore because it's not about you. And so for that, it was I won't say rude awakening. I can't think of a better word, but like he's here. My son's here, and it's not about me. It's about him, and it's not just about him. It's about my wife. Now I have 2 other people that I have to look to take care of, and now I'm responsible for it. I remember the first night in the hospital, I was so uneasy that he was sleeping in this little sidecar, and I was like, is he going to stop breathing? Like, what do I have to do? Like, there's just so much unknown. Like, you can prepare all you want, but when they're there, it's just different. And now you have to figure it out, and hopefully you have a good support system with people that have been there. But a lot of the lessons you learn as a parent is you learn through trial and error, and you learn by doing, which that's okay. That's part of it. So
funny story. When my daughter came home, the first from the hospital, it was January, and it was cold up in the high desert. I mean, you know, it's cold up there around January, and people are coming over to visit my mom and everybody. I got the fireplace on. I got the heater on. People are walking in. They're taking their jackets off. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, got a new baby here, man. I'm trying to keep it warm in here. It's like 90 degrees in our house.
The old fatherhood.
That, yeah. The old fatherhood.
All right, cool. We keep it, stay in this pocket here. Let's see. Codey, go with you first. What do you want or wish most for your kids?
I think the classic statement is we want our kids to be more successful than us. I think people say that, but I don't think people mean it. I think a lot of parents are like, I hope here's where I am. I hope my kid gets right here, but they're just not as good as me. I wholeheartedly want my kids to be successful. I want them to contribute in society, and I want them to be a good person. Just being very vague in that, but I truly want my kids to have a better life than I have currently as well. And I also want them to do better than I'm doing right now, which hopefully that's a tough tale if I do the right thing and I'm on the right path, but I want my kids to be successful. I want them to do the right thing, and I want them to be an important part of society and impact people as much as they can.
Earl, same question. What do you want most? Or wish?
Yeah, I wish, same thing. I want her to be successful and be a good person.
She'll be driving soon, right?
She's going to be driving? Yeah. That's a whole nother story.
SoCal traffic.
You're Maddie. We're going way too fast. You don't need to keep pushing that message to me. But no, I want her to be successful for sure. I told her the other day. I said, you want to work on the farm? Or you want to own the farm? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want her to be smart. I want her to be educated. I wouldn't mind if she's a par golf player. Maybe subpar would be good. Maybe a little birdie action going on. She's very calm. She's very humble. Her quality is already there, that I'm very impressed with. And I think it's, who we surround her with, all the time. And she's growing up way too fast, but she's got a good demeanor about her. So I hope she keeps that. I don't want her to grow up too fast either. I wish that I just want her to be a kid, because I think the society pushes our kids growing up way too fast with the technology, which is good at times, but it also could be bad. Just they grow up too fast. So I just want her to slow down, be successful. I want her to find love, obviously, find somebody like me. But yeah, eventually that'll happen, and I'll support her the whole way.
Very good. Mm-hmm. I'm going to stick in this real quick. Another one. Codey, go with you first. Should you raise your kids to fear you?
Should you raise your kids to fear you? So this is something that we constantly talk about at Echelon Front. We teach the concept of ownership, right? Ownership, accountability, responsibility of what you do, the role that you play. And a lot of people have a hard time with, I take ownership, like, when is it the other person's fault? And a lot of people, when they use accountability incorrectly, they use it, as a threat, as a fear, they use fear as a motivator. And I think that's the wrong way to go about it. I mean, if I look back to my childhood, because I think there's two sides of the coin here. There's fear and there's respect. And if I think of my kids, what I want them to do, to behave, is I want them to respect me, but not to fear me. Here's the reason why. Fear, when you fear something, what do you typically do? You typically cower away. You typically don't face it. You run away. You don't talk to it. You don't address it. You hide from it. And you could pull the thread on that a bunch. Meaning, If my son makes a mistake and he's afraid, he's not going to tell me. He's going to hide it. I don't want that because I know my kids are going to make mistakes. They're going to go through stuff. On the opposite side of fear is respect. When people respect you and things go wrong, like what is in the back of their mind? Like I'm upset that I disappointed that person, but they're still going to go up and talk to that person. When I think of, two people in my life, and I'll touch on this, my dad, I've never feared my dad. Sure, was I aware that my dad could, kick my ass? 100%. When I was 8 years old and he was, yes, that, if you want to call that fear, sure. But no, how he treated me, I was never fearful of the repercussions of my actions. I was fearful of, what he could do as a grown adult, yes. But in terms of decisions that I made and things that I was doing, I was never fearful to bring it to his attention of what he was going to do to me. Was I going to get in trouble? Sure. But I was more afraid to let him down. And that goes as a kid, that goes in high school, as a Marine Corps, anything that I did when I got in trouble, I was embarrassed that, hey, you know what, Dad, all the things that you've done, the recipe that you set for me, the example that you set, I messed up and now I have to tell you this. Like that was like my worst case scenario. So I've never feared him as a leader or someone that influences me. I was more afraid to let him down and to disappoint him. On the other side, from a corporate side, because I know a lot of people as the boss, like my team should fear me or I'm going to use threats to get them to do something. Like I think you shouldn't do that. Jocko. Think I'm afraid of Jocko? It's literally the same statement. Can Jocko tap me out? Yes, Jocko's a freaking black belt and 100%. He could choke me out. Cool. If you want to call that fear, yes. But if I do something wrong or I mess up with the client or I don't deliver tomorrow, like I have no problem going to Jocko. But I'm going to be embarrassed and say, hey, Jocko, you set me up for success. Last 5 years have been great. I made a mistake. And here's the crazy part. Jocko's going to be like, how can we fix it? What can I do to help you? That's a testament to who he is, who my dad is, who great leaders are, is the team, their parents, their kids, they don't fear them, but they respect him. And when you respect somebody, typically you're going to do the right thing for the right reasons. And when things do go wrong, you're still going to bring it to their attention. When you fear somebody, you're going to cower away. You're not going to bring stuff up. You're going to hide, whatever the case may be. And then bad things happen because of that. So I know there is an old school way of thinking. And I know I talk to I'm the youngest on our team by 8 years. I talk to a lot of older gentlemen. In that statement, I know a lot of people think that kids should fear their parents. I disagree. And sure, I may be naive because my kids are younger, but I want my kids to come to me with anything and everything, regardless of what they do. When they're afraid to tell me things, guess what they're going to do? They're not going to tell me. And if they don't tell me, I can't help them. And that's my job. The one thing I'm supposed to do is support my kids, and I can't do it. Why? Because my kids fear me. Thus, I choose the latter. I want them to respect me. Mm-hmm. Because when they do respect me, they're still going to bring it to me. Sure, am I going to be upset? Yes. But they're still going to bring it to me so that I can help them and support them, which is my job.
Raul, anything to follow up that soundbite with?
Yeah, well said. That's a great way of putting it, man. No, it's the fear of disappointment. I agree with you. If we're leading a company or we're a dad and our people our team, if you will, can't come to us because they fear us, we are doing the opposite of what we should be doing. But I agree with you. Nice job.
Very good. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Codey, go back to you real quick. Last question is fatherhood category. What's one thing you always want your kids to remember when you are gone?
One thing my kids need to remember when I'm gone?
Yeah.
If I'm talking about me?
Yes.
So the first thing I want them to remember is how much I care about two things, my wife and my kids. I want to set the tone on, hey, this is what right looks like. This is how you treat your spouse. I set the example. So that's the other thing. That's the first thing. Other thing is how much I care about them. And how much I care about them is the amount of time that I spend in the memories that I create. The third thing, I know I said two. The third thing is I want to teach them and show them and leave them with the impression that families can be all you have. And when kids have siblings, they're going to have a relationship longer than I have a relationship with them. As much as that sucks to say as a parent, like my kids are going to be in each other's lives longer than I'm going to be in their lives. And that sucks to say, but it's true. And so my goal as I get older and my kids get older is I want to create a bond that no matter what is thrown their way, no matter what influence is there, that they have somebody else to lean on to. Because right now they can lean on me and they can lean on my wife, but that's not forever. Eventually I'm going to be gone. My wife's going to be gone. And what they've may still have is a brother or a sister. Luckily, I have 4 kids, and hopefully I can build strong relationships so that when push comes to shove, they're not married yet. They don't have somebody to talk to. They have 3 other people that they can say, hey, I know what I'm stuck. What can I do? As much as I hate to say I'm not going to be in my kids' lives forever, like that's the reality. And when kids have siblings, they may have one other line of defense to solve a problem. And I want to make sure that they know that, they understand that, and that they believe that.
Very good.
Very good.
Raul, what you got?
Well, that's a tough one. I can go back to, I just hope that she remembers that I was always there for her, when she needed me, regardless of the situation. I got a Father's Day card today, and she used words like my mentor, right? Love, obviously being loving, all those things. I hope that she remembers me by. And also, Dad was a good dresser. Maybe I'm gonna lighten it up a little bit. God, he was snazzy, and he got cool watches too. By the way, I got a new Father's Day watch.
See what you got.
Yeah, it's pretty tight.
It's very clean.
Yeah, it was a Seiko Super Cub.
Ooh, that's the 5 or
It's,
the.
yeah, it's the. I'm a big old watch head. Sorry. There's only 6,000 of these made.
Shout out.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one.
Very cool.
Very cool. Thanks, Maddie.
All right, we'll switch it up. Going back to the business leadership side.
Let's go. Let's do it.
All right. The locksmith paradox. As the locksmith improves his craft, customers become upset by the lower time input required to deliver a fixed output. Same results, but the perception of value has changed. My question to you, Codey and Raul. Is there a downside to becoming better at your craft? Codey Gandy.
I don't think there's a downside to being more proficient as long as it's properly articulated to the people that are involved. When you don't articulate, hey, this is experience that I have. I know I used to do it this. This is what I'm doing it now. That's better for you because less time I have to be here. When you can properly articulate that, people don't make their own assumptions. Assumptions are everything. You're not aligned. When you don't communicate why this has changed and why I'm more proficient, what they're going to come to on their own is, oh, this guy's doing a half-ass job. He's taking half the time. He must not be as good. When in reality, when you communicate effectively, then you're on the same page on, damn, he was quick. Like, that's awesome. He must be really good at his job. When you leave things up for interpretation, bad things happen. When you don't communicate the why behind what you're doing, the other person comes to the why on their own. Typically, they're not on the same playing field. Proficiency, efficiency, better at their job. Dude sucks, not on the same page, doing a poor job. All because the why and you not being aligned on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
Raul, you got another black belt answer there?
Would you let me go first at least? No, I think as long as quality, to your point there, as long as quality don't suffer, I think if you're putting out a product and you're fishing at it, I think that's what we're built to do, right? If we didn't, then we wouldn't advance as a society or our craft. So I think, back to our craft, like guys are punching out work now at a rate that's way better than what we ever did. I can tell you that for sure, but it's because of the tooling, it's the training, it's the efficiencies that they're building within, with each other. They're getting better at it. So I think as long as quality, obviously safety and things of that such don't suffer, I think, let's move forward. Let's be more efficient as possible.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last question here. We'll start winding this thing down.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse Itzler. He has about 1 million subscribers on Instagram, a little more than what we got. He's a successful businessman who runs races and gives incredible speeches. And he says on a post on Instagram, and I quote, "Mark my words, the things that will make the biggest difference in your business will not be in your business plan. They will be opportunities and things that you think of on the spot or present themselves that you jump on." Raul, my question to you and Codey is leadership ever a part of the business plan?
I think so, yeah. I as much as I've learned, I can tell you I didn't probably think that earlier, coming up as a young lad or a young leader. The term leadership wasn't something that I was familiar with saying. But I think if, leadership is the solution, I think leadership will drive your performance of your company. But it's something that's not easy. It's a skill. Codey said that. All the past echelon front guests have said it. It's something you have to work on. It's like anything else. Overnight, you're not going to be the best leader. but it takes skill, it takes hard work, it takes effort. It's a choice too, right? It's a choice. If you don't have to use the words like leadership, you can run your company or your household how you want to. But if it's a choice and you stay consistent at it, I think you could be successful in life and in business.
Codey, what you got? Is leadership ever part of the business plan?
I think it should be, but I think it's not. I think a lot of people, they wait for when it's necessary, but when you wait too long, like you're already behind the power curve. I think X's and O's will only get you so far. Even if you're a solo entrepreneur and you're by yourself, like you're going to have to communicate with a client if you're going to service or provide something for somebody. So a soft skill is needed to communicate, whether it's via email, website, or in person. Like soft skills of leadership are important. Excellent. If you don't have leadership, you can be successful. I've seen it. But when you have leadership in place and you make it a priority and you invest in your people, which I think the best way to invest into somebody, to show somebody you care, is give them leadership training to set them up for success. You're only going to get so far X's and O's. Leadership will elevate and exponentially make you better. X's and O's, tacticians on that side when you have leadership in place, because eventually you're going to have a team. When you have a team, when you have people dealing with people, what you need to be successful is leadership in itself.
Dope. Well said.
Well said.
Codey, that's all I got, man. Raul's going to start winding this ship down, bring it back into dock. Tugboats are in. I just want to say thanks, man. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'm always excited to hop on the Echelon Front Academy, see you on there. You guys always give great perspective. I appreciate you for taking that leap of faith back in 2018 and going to Detroit, just kind of a deer in the headlights and sticking with this thing, man. You bring a lot of value. I appreciate what you do in the veteran community. I'm always honored when you see veterans in action and empowerment, and to think that you guys, a bunch of veterans, or most of you guys make up veterans on the team. You guys are leading a movement that is influencing leaders, businesses, and corporations. I think that's awesome. So thanks, man. Appreciate it. Look forward to tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Well, you had fun?
Yes, sir. Hell yeah.
Man, I really appreciate you coming out. I know this is something that me and Paul are passionate about. I think if we can get this message out to just one person and they use it, it's worth it for us. You coming out and taking the time is very, very important to us, and we do appreciate it. So thank you, man.
Yes, sir.
I want to close out here. I'm actually going to let Jocko close us out. Back to leadership strategy and tactics, because we talked a lot about leadership. We talked a lot about fundamentals and tendencies and habits. I mean, I can go on with what we've talked about. It was just such a great podcast. But I want to get your thoughts on this last little bit here, okay? And then let you close us out. Leadership is all on you. But at the same time, leadership is not about you. Not at all. Leadership is about the team. The team is most important than you are. The moment you put your own interest above the team and above the mission is the moment you fail as a leader. When you think you can get away with it, when you think the team won't notice your self-serving maneuvers, you're wrong. Your people will see it, and they will know it. What's your thoughts on that? Summarize it.
Follow the Jocko. By the way, that's my favorite book that we have.
Yeah.
That Leadership Strategy and Tactics. It's like 100 and something chapters of how to handle leadership situations. So great recommendation. But yeah, I think a lot of people come to our trainings, whether it's on the academy or virtual or in person, and everything we talk to is about them as an individual. But to Jocko's point, like it's not about them, it's about the team. When you are selfish and you self-centered and you do these things for your own benefit, like to his point, people are going to see through. We always say your intent has a smell. And when your intent smells like not good, people are aware, like, what is he trying to do? Like, what is he trying to pull over? And then bad things happen. But when your intent is to support the team and the team is successful and the team wins, well, then who else wins? You do as an individual. So it is a little counterintuitive to think how this works, but that's what makes us go around. Like, we need a team. We need other people to be successful. We can't do this by ourselves. As much as we want to, typically we're a cog in the wheel. We are a piece of the puzzle. But when you do the right thing for the right reasons, you start with yourself, you influence others, then you get the whole team on board, the team's successful, you win by a byproduct of that. So it does start and end with you, but your intent has to be this is for the benefit of my spouse, my kids, my team, my subordinates, whoever it is. And typically it does come full circle. Jocko tells a story, or sometimes he wraps up with this thought and he asked, what typically makes a great SEAL, or what makes a great Marine, or what makes a great leader, what makes a good coworker in itself. And people give all these, classic answers on a good shot or a good person or, you know, a better or a good athlete, etc. And Jock always strips that away, and it's a person that puts the team first. Because I can be a good shot in the Marine Corps, but if people don't like me, like they're not going to follow me where I can't influence. If I'm not a good coworker and I don't care about people, like I'm only one person, I can only go so far. So when you put people first, when you put the team first, when you put the mission first, good things happen. And yes, you as an individual, you do still get supported. You still win. It just comes later down the road. So this stuff in itself, leadership, whether you're a parent, whether you're a spouse, whether you're an employee, peer boss, subordinate, it's not about you, but that's hard because you're facing tendency. Tendency says this is about you. Like you need to listen. Like this is about you as an individual. But when you do things for your own benefit, on your own accord, for selfish reasons, typically things don't pan out. Typically people don't stick around.
Yeah, it's that natural byproduct, right? You're just doing the right thing for the right reasons, you know, and you'll find happiness when you're looking for it. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
That's pretty awesome. Where can people find you? You're on the Instagram. I know that all over the place.
I am only on the Instagram because
on the gram.
Technology is fun in itself. Yeah, just Instagram.
Yeah.
And then Echelon Front itself. So I'm on there on the instructor page. We have a bunch of events coming up as well. So those are the two places you can find me.
Awesome. And your Instagram is?
I know I see it behind you. So luckily you wrote it up there for me. It's at Codey, and my mom thought I was unique, so she put an E in my name. It's Codey, and then my last name. So Codey.Gandy.
Guys, I really appreciate today, Paul, all your hard work. Awesome job. Guys, our listeners, hope you guys enjoyed that podcast, man. Again, appreciate your perception on everything, man. I love it. It's awesome. Looking forward to tomorrow, too. We're going to have some fun.
Appreciate you.
I'm going to close us out of here. Just a real quick thank you guys for the listen. Want to give a shout out to our promotional partners out there. Milwaukee Tool doing their thing. Thank you guys. Codey with Coat Eyewear. Looking good, man, always. Dragonware FR, our rodeo team collab. You guys looking good. Appreciate all your help. Klein Tools, always supporting our crew of the month. Doing a great job with them. Appreciate you guys over at Klein. And then we got a new preferred partner here. I'm wearing his gear. High Voltage Industries on Instagram. Check them out, guys. Always doing a solid. Check out that new canteen, too. You guys just got that new canteen.
Yeah, I got it right here.
A little water keg.
Fill it up.
Keeping you hydrated.
It's getting hot.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate the show. Appreciate the listen. Thank you, guys.